I am Maggie Liu. Shen Juyu's rebirth had the coldest opening of all similar stories. She didn't marry into the Grand Tutor's mansion to be Shi Jingsing's wife. She was there to steal a black iron deputy token. On their wedding night, when Shi Jingsing handed her the divorce document, his expression was one of charity. Thinking she would cry, she just smiled, pulled out another one she had already signed from under her pillow, and said, "All right." In that moment, Shi Jingsing's confusion was genuine. He couldn't understand why a woman wasn't acting out a crying scene in his script. He didn't know that in her previous life, while coughing up thick smoke and digging at the green bricks with her fingernails in the fire at the cold palace, she had already torn this script to pieces. The core satisfying point of this story isn't that she won, it is that she doesn't need to win against him. Next, let's see how Shen Yining overturns 4 black-hearted households with a single bridal sedan chair. If you hadn't entered the wrong wedding hall, a Yao would have long been my legal wife. On the 8th day of the 12th lunar month, it snowed so hard I couldn't open my eyes. Pei Chengyuan stood by my bed, holding a medicine bowl in his hand, his voice colder than the wind outside the window. "You ruined mine and a Yao's lives." I opened my mouth, but blood gushed out from my throat first. 6 years. I was husband and wife with Pei Chengyuan for 6 years. I was the one who propped up the Pei family medicine business for him. I was the one who knelt before famous doctors across all provinces for him. And I was also the one who helped him rise from a concubine's son looked down upon by his clansmen to the top medicine merchant that everyone in the capital city envies. In the end, it was no match for his regret of not marrying his sweetheart. Blood splattered on the brocade quilt, bleeding out into an ink-coloured flower. I saw him turn around to help Liu Yao outside the door, his arm wrapped around her waist, so carefully like he was holding a piece of porcelain. 6 years as husband and wife, and he had never touched me like that. How laughable. Pei Chengyuan. I used my last ounce of strength to call out and stop him. He looked back. I smiled and asked him, "Did you think I was the one who wanted to enter your wedding hall back then?" He didn't hear me clearly, and he didn't need to hear it clearly anymore. Liu Yao leaned in Pei Chengyuan's arms, looking up at me. There was no hate in her eyes, just the kind of calmness you have when looking at a dead person. I recognized that calmness 6 years ago by the bridal sedan chair. She had looked at me exactly like this. At the time, I thought it was helplessness. Turns out, it was her getting exactly what she wanted. My vision went dark. At the last moment, I heard Shen Jira's voice coming from far away. "Sister, things that aren't meant for you in your fate, you can't grasp them even if you try." She was wearing the phoenix hairpin that should have belonged to me. I opened my eyes. The heater burned my fingertips, burning so realistically. The capital city in the 12th lunar month was cold as a knife, and the wind made the window paper rattle loudly. I stared at the bed curtains overhead as my breath came back little by little, but that coppery sweetness in my chest was still welling up. My ears were ringing in a blur. Fragments of my past life kept crushing around in my head. Pei Chengyuan's back, Liu Yao's eyes, and the swaying phoenix hairpin on Shen Jira's head, and that bridal sedan chair from 6 years ago. The bridal sedan chair I was shoved into before I could even clearly see its patterns. "Miss," the door curtain was thrown open, and cold wind poured in. Jinghe ran in, her face full of joy. The Jing'an Earl estate has come to present the betrothal gifts. The heir came in person. I looked at her still youthful face. In my past life, she lowered her head by the bridal sedan chair to avoid my eyes. Back then, I thought she was scared. Only later did I find out she just didn't dare to look at me. I suppressed the coppery taste in my throat and slowly sat up. The bronze mirror reflected a 17-year-old face, its brows and eyes not yet blackened by the soot of the Pei family storehouse, its fingers not yet calloused from grinding medicine. 17 years old, the year the Jing'an Earl estate came to present the betrothal gifts. None of the things had happened yet. Jinghe hadn't even caught her breath yet. "Madam said the dates are good, and she wants you and the second miss to marry on the same day. The Earl estate set the 16th of the 12th lunar month, but Madam said the 18th of the 12th lunar month is more auspicious." Sure enough, my stepmother, Madame Xu, had the same idea again. My mother, Madame Xu, passed away from illness when I was 7. Father remarried the daughter of a cloth merchant, Madame Xu. And after Madame Xu married in, she gave birth to Shen Jiro. Shen Jiro is also a legitimate daughter. But the Shu family are merchants, so many highborn families in the capital despised her for having a weak background. 2 months ago, the Pei family pharmacy in the south of the city came to propose marriage to Shen Jiro. The Pei family had money but no official status. Madame Shu disliked the Pei family's low social standing, yet she couldn't bear to part with the Pei family's generous gifts. In my previous life, the Jing'an Count's mansion suddenly sent their betrothal gifts early, and the two marriages clashed together on the 18th day of the 12th lunar month. I got into the wrong bridal sedan chair and married into the Pei family. Shen Jiro entered the Count's mansion. By the time it was discovered, she and Lu Jinghang had already performed the wedding ceremony. My reputation was completely ruined. Father said that since things had come to this, we just had to accept it. In this life, that won't happen. Go call Kai Wei in. The smile on Qing Hei's face paused for a moment. Aren't you going to the main courtyard to thank Madam, miss? I looked at the gold-threaded scented sachet half exposed at her cuff, a pattern only used by the maids in Shen Jiro's courtyard. I told you to call Kai Wei. She lowered her head and backed out. Kai Wei came in holding a bowl of osmanthus soup. She was 16 with a round face and round eyes, and her voice was as crisp as newly flicked abacus beads. Why did you think of me today, miss? This soup just finished cooking. Your nose is sharper than a cat's. I took the bowl in my previous life. I let her go before I got married. Her brother and sister-in-law came to redeem her, saying they had arranged a good marriage for her. It was only 3 years later that I found out the truth. She was sold to a 60-year-old widower. He beat her when he was drunk, and he beat her when he wasn't. She died in the woodshed, and the person who collected her body said she was still clutching that silver melon seed I had given her back then in the palm of her hand. Kai Wei, these days don't leave the estate without my word. If your brother and sister-in-law come looking for you, don't see them either. Kai Wei was taken aback. She looked at me for a moment, didn't ask why, and put the tray down on the table. I believe you. She paused. If anyone comes to drag me away, I'll hug a pillar and scream. I've got a loud voice anyway. I finally gave a small smile. Simone from the main courtyard soon came with a message, saying father wanted me in the study. When I arrived, Madame Shu and Shen Jiro were both there. Father, Shen Huili, was sitting behind the desk. Seeing me come in, his tone was unusually mild. Yining, take a seat. Madame Shu patted the space beside her. Come over to mother. The Earl's manor sent the betrothal gifts today. Your mother's spirit in heaven should be at ease now. When she mentioned my mother, there was no respect in her eyes at all. There was even a hint of a smile hanging on her lips. Shen Jiro sat to the side, pinching a handkerchief in her hand, her voice as soft as sugar water. It is so wonderful that sister can marry the heir. I just hope sister won't despise us poor relatives from the Pei family in the future. In my past life, I even comforted her after hearing this. Later, she sat on the embroidered couch in the Earl's manor, raised a hand to straighten the phoenix hairpin on her head, and smiled at me. Sister, things not meant for you in this life. You can't grab hold of them no matter how hard you try. I looked at Shen Jiro, hearing her say poor relatives from the Pei family again in this life. I just felt like every word had hooks in it. I heard the betrothal gifts the Pei family sent over filled 88 chests. How is that poor? The handkerchief in Shen Jiro's hand paused. Madame Shu's smile froze. You child, why are you bringing up the betrothal gifts? Rua just can't bear to part with you. Father frowned, yining. Madame Shu worked hard to arrange your marriage. Don't be unreasonable. I lowered my eyes. I just think since the two families set different dates, why change them to the same day? Since the Earl's mansion set the 16th of the 12th lunar month, let's just stick to the 16th. Madame Shu immediately chimed in. How would that do? The 18th of the 12th lunar month is an auspicious day chosen by the old master from the Directorate of Astronomy. Sisters marrying on the same day also brings face to the Shen family. Is it the Shen family that gets the face? Or is it just convenient for a certain someone? The study went quiet for a moment. Father slammed the table. Shen yining. What are you talking about? I looked up at him. I said, whatever date the Earl's mansion set, that will be the date. If father insists on changing it, I'll go to the Earl's mansion myself to ask the Countess if she also thinks the Shen family's arrangement brings more face. Madame Xu quickly said, Master Ning'er is just being shy. Shen Jiro's eyes turned red on cue. Does sister find it humiliating to marry on the same day as me? Then I might as well call off the engagement. The Pei family isn't some prestigious household anyway. No one will ask if it is delayed for a few days. As long as sister is happy. Father's face changed immediately. His expression softened, and he reached out to support Shen Jiro. Rua, don't talk nonsense. A marriage is no trifling matter. Then he turned to look at me, his tone already scolding. Yining, your sister gives way to you in everything, yet you still want to go make a scene at the Earl's mansion. I looked at his hand. That hand was so warm when it supported Shen Jiro, but in my previous life when it supported me, he only said, since things have come to this, a woman's reputation is what matters. The bond between father and daughter was already severed in my previous life. If father thinks I am making a fuss, then I won't say any more. Lady Xu breathed a sigh of relief. I continued. It is just that I will personally keep the marriage certificate and betrothal letter sent by the Count's manor today. The wedding date won't change, the wedding dress won't pass through anyone else's hands, and the bridal sedan chair will also be sent by the Count's manor. If even one thing doesn't go accordingly, I paused, looked at Lady Xu, and said word for word. Then I will go kneel at my maternal grandmother's door at the Xu family and ask if, just because my mother is dead, the Shen family can just do whatever they want with her daughter. Father's expression changed, although the Xu family had declined a bit. Grandmother still had her imperial mandate. If a fuss was made, the Shen family's reputation would be the first to suffer. Lady Xu's fingernails scraped against the teacup, making a piercing sound. Ning'er, who are you trying to guard against? I looked at her fingernails. Against petty people. Shen Jiro's tears finally fell. She cried delicately like a pear blossom in the rain, pressing a handkerchief to the corners of her eyes, her shoulders shaking. I saw the fingernails of her other hand digging into her palm. Father said angrily, Enough. I'll hand the betrothal letter over to you first, and the wedding date won't change for now. Go back. I curtsied and left. Just as I reached the corridor, Qinghe chased after me. Miss, you were too impulsive today. Madam is also doing this for your own good. I stopped. Water was dripping from the icicles on the eaves, hitting the bluestone slabs drop by drop. Qinghe, how many years have you been with me? 3 years. 3 years and you still don't know who your master is. Her face paled a bit. This servant is naturally Mrs. Person. I stared at the bit of gold thread sachet peeking out from her cuff. Then remember, whatever your master tells you to do, you do it. I withdrew my gaze. Things you shouldn't accept will burn your hands. Qinghe quickly shrank her hands back into her sleeves. This servant doesn't understand what Miss means. You will understand. The wind swept under the corridor, making the wind chime at the corner of the eaves let out a clang. Saiwei cornered an old servant woman in the night. The old woman was sneaking towards the back door, carrying a red cloth bundle tucked in her arms. Kaiwei pushed her in front of me, and the old woman knelt down with a thud. Spare me, eldest miss. This servant is just sending some food to the kids at home. I looked at the red cloth bundle, open it. It wasn't food inside. A piece of red silk, embroidered with the floral scroll pattern of the Jing'an Earl's mansion. The stitches were very new, obviously copied from the sample of the sedan curtain sent by the Earl's mansion. There was also a bridal sedan size list, written neatly with even the length of the sedan poles marked. Qinghe stood at the door, her face whiter than the window paper. I asked, Who gave this to you? The old woman kowtowed. No one gave it, this servant picked it up, Kaiwei scolded. Who are you going to show a picked-up Earl's mansion sedan curtain pattern to your chickens? The old woman cried bitterly. Miss, this servant really doesn't know. Someone stuffed it into the firewood pile in the kitchen, and this servant only kept it thinking it was just some fabric. I didn't ask any more questions and just had Kaiwei lock her in the woodshed. Qinghe whispered, Miss, maybe it is a misunderstanding if this blows up. Madam will blame you for being harsh on the servants. Has she ever blamed me any less? Qinghe bit her lip. Miss wasn't like this before. I looked at her. I died once before. Qinghe backed away in fright. I picked up that piece of red silk. I got into the wrong sedan chair in my previous life simply because even the curtain patterns on the two sedans were almost exactly the same. The Pei family sedan was supposed to use a double fish pattern, but it was ultimately swapped for the intertwining branch pattern of the Earl's mansion. Some owner had started preparing for this a long time ago. The next day, Madame Shu started crying the moment she walked in. "Ninga, you detained Nanny last night. She has worked in the manor for over 10 years. Even if she did wrong, she should be left to me to handle. Slapping my face like this. Are you treating me like an outsider?" Shenjiro supported her and coaxed softly, "Mother, don't cry. Sister is just panicking because she is about to get married." I threw the red cloth bundle onto the table. This thing was found hidden inside her clothes. Lady Shu didn't even look. "It is just a servant stealing some fabric." "The sedan curtain of the Earl's manor is also just fabric," Shenjiro immediately said. "Sister, aren't you overthinking things? With so many items going back and forth for the Earl's mansion's betrothal gifts, servants grabbing the wrong thing happens too." Highway interrupted, grabbed the wrong thing and still headed for the dog hole. Madame Shu's face darkened. "When masters are talking, is it your place to interrupt?" I picked up my tea. Kaiwei is my person. If I let her speak, she can speak. Madame Shu turned to Qinghe. "Qinghe, did you see clearly last night? Did the eldest miss suspect me all along and set a trap on purpose to catch someone?" Qinghe was called out and dropped to her knees in fright. This servant doesn't know. In life I am your person, miss, and in death I am your ghost." The words came out fast, but her voice was shaking. Shenjiro sighed softly. "Sister, look, even Qinghe is scared of you. You've made everyone in the courtyard fear for themselves. When you marry into the Earl's mansion later, who dare to go with you?" I asked Qinghe. "Are you scared of me or scared of saying the wrong thing?" Qinghe pressed her forehead to the ground. "This servant is afraid you are being fooled, miss." A bit more smugness appeared in Madame Shu's eyes. Kaiwei was so angry she tried to rush over, but I raised my hand to stop her. I said to Qinghe, "Since you think I've been deceived, then tell me, where did the thing in Nanny Li's arms come from?" "Maybe." Qinghe's voice got quieter and quieter. "Sister Kaiwei put it in." Kaiwei laughed out of anger. "I stuffed the Earl's manor pattern on her and then dragged her back. Do I have nothing better to do?" Qinghe said with a trembling voice. "This servant is just guessing." Lady Shu immediately slammed the table. "Well, so you, this girl, dared to frame a senior servant of the manor just to fight for favor. Ninga, you are a poor judge of character and almost wronged an innocent person." I looked at Qinghe. Her forehead was pressed against the cold floor tiles, and her shoulders were shrunk into a tiny ball. In my past life, I could never figure out why, after being with me for 3 years, she could trick me on my wedding day by saying the Earl's mansion's sedan chair was at the west gate. So the answer is here: betrayal doesn't grow overnight. I put down the teacup. "Since everyone has their own story, then let's send them to the government office. Stealing the Earl's mansion's pattern concerns the marriage between the two mansions, and our mansion can't sort this out." Lady Shu's face immediately changed. "Family scandals shouldn't be aired outside. Didn't Mother just say she was innocent? If she is innocent, why be afraid of the government office?" Shenjiro hurriedly tugged at Lady Shu's sleeve. "Sister, if this is dragged to the government office, people will gossip about me too. If the Pei family despises me," she looked up, her eyes red. "Can you marry in my place, sister?" This line again. "In my past life," she cried, and said the Pei family despised her, and I felt soft-hearted and consoled her. In the end, the person who married in her place turned out to be me. I smiled. Number Shenjiro froze. I looked at her, speaking word by word. "My marriage is mine, and your marriage is yours. Whether you marry well or not has nothing to do with me." Lady Shu's face turned green with anger. "Shen Yining, do you have any sisterly affection at all?" Number Father's coughing came from outside the door. Shen Haili stepped through the door. He first looked at Lady Shu's red eyes, then at Shenjiro shedding tears, and finally at me. "What are you causing a fuss about now?" I handed him the red silk. "See for yourself." "Father," he glanced at it. His face looked awful for a split second. Then he tossed the red silk back onto the table. Lady Shu hurriedly said, "Master, this is nothing but servants slacking off and causing trouble." "Then just send them away." Shen Hoili wanted to settle it with a single sentence. He didn't even want to take another look at that piece of red silk. I said, Send her away where? Sell her to the farmstead, or send her to the Shu family? Lady Shu said sharply. How insolent. Father stared at me. Do you insist on keeping this house in turmoil? If father won't investigate, then tomorrow I will take these things to the Earl's mansion. Let the Countess investigate on behalf of the Shen family. Father's chest heaved a few times. He pointed at old woman Li. Drag her down, beat her with 20 boards, and sell her off. Qing He is fined half a year's monthly silver for lax discipline. Qing He collapsed on the ground, Kaiwei whispered. She got off easy. I didn't say anything. I saw Lady Shu slip a small piece of paper into Shenjiro's sleeve as she helped her leave. Shenjiro clutched the paper tightly, her knuckles turning white. They won't stop. Neither will I. The day the Earl's mansion sent over the wedding dress fabric, Pei Chengyuan came by with old Madame Pei to deliver a return gift. I watched him through the screen. He still looked like a young man with gentle eyes and a tactful way of speaking. He stood in the parlour slightly bowing, like a tree that had been pruned a bit too neatly. Old Madame Pei smiled and said to Mrs. Shu, Ruer is gentle. Our Pei family asked for a long time before we finally got her. Chengyan, come meet your future wife's older sister too. Pei Chengyuan bowed to me, eldest Miss Shen. I stepped half a step back. Young Master Pei is too polite. When he looked up, his gaze swept across my face. His eyes paused for a moment, as if he recognized something, then immediately moved away. Shenjiro's cheeks flushed pink. Brother Chengyuan, this is my older sister. Sister is straightforward. Please don't take offense. Pei Chengyuan smiled. Being straightforward is good, no hiding things. I almost laughed out loud. In my previous life, he hated it the most that I didn't hide things. He hated that I publicly pointed out his clan uncle for stealing medicinal herbs, hated that I forced him to straighten out the account books, and hated that I made him remember how wretched he used to be even after he gained a firm foothold in the Pei family. What he hated was exactly the very thing he initially called good. Madame Shu had someone serve tea. Pei Chengyuan brought up medicinal herbs. There are many catching a cold in the capital lately, so the Pei family is preparing to donate a batch of medicine to the free clinic in the west of the city. Father immediately praised young Master Pei is so kind-hearted. Shenjiro looked at him affectionately. Brother Chengyuan is always like this, never forgetting the poor even when he is tired himself. Hearing this, I thought of that batch of free clinic medicine from my previous life. It was I who found out that the old medicine in the Pei family's warehouse had gotten damp, and suggested boiling it into an external wash not to be ingested, so it wouldn't be wasted and wouldn't harm anyone. Pei Chengyuan used this idea to gain a good reputation for himself. In this life he hasn't married me yet, but he actually thought of it beforehand. I asked, is young Master Pei donating new medicine or old medicine? The room fell quiet for a moment. Pei Chengyuan looked at me. What does eldest miss mean? If stale medicine gets damp, it hurts people when they take it. I looked into his eyes. The free clinic is for the poor. The poor value their lives too. Old Madame Pei looked displeased. Eldest miss, your words make it sound like our Pei family is using bad medicine to harm people. Shenjiro hurriedly said, Sister, you don't understand medicinal herbs. Don't talk nonsense. Pei Chengyuan raised his hand and stopped Shenjiro. He said gently, rest assured, eldest miss, the Pei family has a century-old reputation. We won't do anything against our conscience. A century-old reputation can't shield the lives of the common people. If something goes wrong at the free clinic in the west of the city, I paused. Young Master Pei also knows the consequences. Pei Chengyuan was still smiling. His mouth was smiling, but his eyes weren't. His hand gave the medicine sachet at his cuff a squeeze that was his habit when nervous. In my past life, whenever the account books didn't match up, he would touch his sachet just like this. I knew it. I hit the nail on the head. After the banquet ended, Shenjiro chased after me into the flower corridor. Sister, why were you targeting Brother Chengyuan today? The wind in the flower corridor poured into my sleeves, chilling to the bone. I talked about medicine. Did he feel guilty? He is kind-hearted. Don't assume the worst of him with bad intentions. I stopped. Since you are protecting him so much, protect him well when you marry him. Shenjiro choked on her words. Are you jealous, sister? You are marrying into the Earl's mansion, and I am marrying into the Pei family. Are you still not satisfied? I am very satisfied. She took a step closer, her voice lowered, that delicate face suddenly magnified before my eyes, her white breath almost spraying onto my face. Don't be too smug, sister. The threshold of a noble family isn't something just anyone can step over steadily. I looked at the beaded hairpin on her head. That hairpin was part of my dowry in my previous life, and she wore it for 6 years. Don't rush it. If it is not your door, you'll trip even if you step inside. The fragile look on her face cracked a little. The corner of her mouth twitched, but she immediately went back to that aggrieved look, turned around, and left. That night, Kaiwei came back from asking around. Miss, the Pei family's medicine storehouse really does have a batch of damp, stale medicine. They're planning to hand it out during the free clinic. The doctors in the west end of the city refused to take it, which is why they wanted to borrow the Shen family's reputation. I nodded. Pass the news to shopkeeper Joe at Huichun Hall. Just say someone is using poor people to test medicine. Kaiwei asked, will shopkeeper Joe do anything about it? He will. How do you know, miss? I picked up the candle scissors and snipped off the overly long wick. The copper scissors bit through the wick, making a crisp snip. He owes the Shu family a life. Kaiwei didn't ask any more questions, just saying, then young Master Pei is going to lose face. Losing face is getting off easy. The next day, right after the Pei family's free clinic tent was set up, the people from Huichun Hall inspected the medicine in public. Shopkeeper Joe held up a packet of medicinal herbs, his voice loud enough for half the street to hear. This medicine is moldy to the bone. Who would dare swallow it? The Pei family is giving this to the poor. Do they think poor people's lives are worthless? The crowd of commoners waiting for medicine immediately exploded in an uproar. Pei Chengyuan stood in front of the tent, his face deathly pale. Shopkeeper Joe, you can't just talk nonsense. The servants moved the wrong medicine. Shopkeeper Joe sneered. Moved the wrong 8 baskets. Do your servants have eyes on the back of their heads? Shenjiro happened to be passing by with Lady Shu, and her face changed when she heard everyone talking. Some unknown recognized her. Isn't this the future young madam of the Pei family? Shenjiro hurriedly stepped back. She tugged at Lady Shu's sleeve and shrank entirely behind Lady Shu, exposing only half of her face. I sat on the 2nd floor of the tea house across the street, watching Pei Chengyuan get surrounded by the commoners through the window. Kaiwei whispered, Miss, Shenjiro is crying. She has plenty more days to cry. The tea house shopkeeper personally brought up the snacks. He put down the snacks and whispered, Miss Shopkeeper, Joe told me to pass on a message that a sample of the stuff has been kept as you instructed. If it is needed in the future, he is ready to testify at any time. I nodded. Many thanks. The shopkeeper retreated very respectfully. Qinghe stood to the side, looked at me, and then looked at the chaotic free clinic tent outside the window. The confusion on her face grew heavier. Her lips moved a few times, wanting to ask something. But she didn't dare. I didn't explain. She doesn't deserve to know. After the free clinic uproar, the Pei family pushed all the blame onto the warehouse manager. Pei Chengyuan personally came to the Shen residence to apologize. Lady Shu, afraid of affecting Shenjiro's marriage, forced a smile and offered him an out. It is just a trivial matter. What large household doesn't have a few unruly servants? Father also said, for Chengyuan to handle it in time, he's already quite steady. I sat outside the folding screen drinking tea. Pei Chengyuan saw me, his tone softer than last time. Eldest Miss Shen, thank you for the reminder the other day. I asked, if I didn't remind you, would young Master Pei have checked? He paused. Naturally, I would. Kaiwei coughed softly behind me. Pei Chengyuan obviously heard it too. Shenjiro immediately defended him. Sister, do you really have to embarrass Brother Chengyuan? He hasn't slept all night. If those damp herbs were ingested, those people might never wake up again. Shenjiro's tears fell again. Why are your words so vicious? Pei Chengyuan stepped in front of her, his tone gentle. Don't cry, Raldest Miss is also looking out for the common people. Beautifully said. He whitewashed himself into someone who looks out for the greater good. I looked at him. If young Master Pei is truly doing this for the common people, he should personally go to the west side of the city to apologize, instead of coming to the Shen residence to coax his fiancée. A few servant girls in the room lowered their heads. The smile on Pei Chengyuan's face finally froze. Lady Xu angrily said, Ninga, a woman should leave some leeway when she speaks. I put down my tea. Mother is right to scold me. Then let me rephrase if young Master Pei doesn't go apologize. The common people will go to the Pei family's door to demand an explanation. As soon as I finished speaking, the gatekeeper ran in panicking. Master, over a dozen commoners from the west side of the city have come and are kneeling outside the gates. They say the Pei family's future in-laws should give them justice. Father stood up abruptly. Why are they making a scene at the Shen residence? Shen Jiro looked at Pei Chengyuan. Pei Chengjuan's hand reached for the medicine pouch again. That hand rubbed against his cuff twice before touching the edge of the pouch. Madame Xu got anxious. Quickly get someone to drive them away, I said. We can't drive them away. If we drive them away today, tomorrow half the capital city will know that the Shen family uses its power to bully the commoners. Father glared at me. Then what do you say we do? Young Master Pei should go out and admit his mistake, pay for the medicine, and hire a doctor for the patients. The Shen family will prepare hot porridge to pacify them. Don't let people say we're cold-blooded. Pei Chengjuan stared at me. There was an emotion in his eyes that he probably didn't even realize himself, not gratitude, but wariness. Eldest Miss has arranged everything thoroughly. Once you've learned the hard way, you naturally understand. He didn't understand. He just thought I was mocking him. Outside the mansion gates, the cries and shouts of the commoners filled the air. An old woman holding her grandson knelt at the very front. The child's face and body were covered in red rashes, and he had cried until his voice was hoarse. The old woman tugged at the hem of Pei Chengyuan's robe. You say you brought the wrong ones, and that is it. Is my grandson's life worthless? Is that it? Pei Chengyuan bowed and apologized. It is the Pei family's lax discipline. I will pay for the medicine and the doctor's fees. The old woman spat. The spittle splashed onto his boots. You think having money is a big deal? If you guys hadn't been caught by shopkeeper Joe, would you have kept handing them out? Pei Chengyuan couldn't speak. Shen Jiro hid behind Madame Xu. She was the future daughter-in-law of the Pei family, yet she didn't dare to take a single step forward. For the first time, the look in my father's eyes when he looked at me was a bit complicated. He stood inside the door, watching me hand out porridge in front of the porridge shed across the threshold. His lips moved, but in the end, he didn't say anything. A young woman looked at me as she took the bowl of porridge. Eldest Miss Shen, I heard you were the one who warned us first. I didn't answer. Shopkeeper Joe squeezed out of the crowd and answered for me. I can vouch for that. Eldest Miss Shen is a sensible person. Madame Xu's face looked as awful as it could possibly get. The venom in Shen Jiro's eyes couldn't be hidden anymore. She stood behind the screen wall, showing only half an eye. The glint in that eye was like a needle. That night, Qinghe knelt outside my door. Miss, I know I was wrong. I had Kaiwei open the door. Qinghe crawled in on her knees, took out a silver bracelet, and held it up with both hands, offering it to me. This is a reward from the second miss. She told me to keep an eye on you, miss, to take note of where your wedding dress is kept, who has the key, and which gate the people from the Earl's mansion will take. Her voice trembled terribly. She also said that as long as I do as I am told on the wedding day, she'll let my younger brother work as a bookkeeper at the shop. Kaiwei grabbed a feather duster and tried to whip her. Not time yet. By the time it is, the miss will have been sold out by you. I stopped Kaiwei. Qinghe, I am giving you one chance. From now on, you do whatever Shen Jiro tells you to do. Come back and tell me whatever she says. Qinghe froze. Miss still trusts me. I don't. Her face turned ashen. So don't let me catch you a second time, Qinghe kowtowed, and a patch on her forehead quickly turned red. After she left, Kaiwei asked, Miss, are you really going to use her? The fish has taken the bait. The line cannot be cut. Outside the window, the wind and snow weighed down the branches. The old locust tree in the courtyard bent its waist in the wind, and snow rustled down from its branches. I knew that what Xu and Shen Jiru wanted to swap was not just the bridal sedan. On the second day of the 12th lunar month, maternal grandmother Su sent someone over with an old wooden box. Delivering the box was Momo Chin, an old servant of the Su family. She wore a plain silver hairpin on her head, and upon entering the courtyard, she first looked around the furnishings in my room. Her eyes also held scrutiny when she looked at Kaiwei and Qinghe. As soon as she saw me, her eyes turned red. Eldest Miss looks more and more like Madam. These brows and eyes, this chin. exactly like the eldest miss from back then. Shu accompanied her personally, smiling. I've kept all the things my sister left behind for Ninger. Old madam is too polite. Momo Chin placed the box into my hands. Old madam said, only you can open this box, miss. A flash of displeasure crossed Ju's eyes. Ninger is still young. I should manage the valuable things. I hugged the box tightly. Since grandmother said it is for me, naturally I will manage it. Father coughed. Since it is from the Su family, let Yining keep it. Shu couldn't argue any further. When she turned around, the hem of her skirt swept over the threshold, kicking up a cloud of dust. After returning to my courtyard, I opened the wooden box. Inside was a pair of jade pendants, an old letter from mother, and half an account book. Kaiwei asked in surprise, why is there only half a book? I flipped through 2 pages. The old accounts of the Pei family's medicinal herbs, Shen family's cloth shops, and the Shu family's stores were intertwined, and every page had mother's small handwritten notes in the margins. Some pages had been torn in half, leaving jagged, uneven paper stubs. In my previous life, after I married into the Pei family and audited the accounts for Pei Chengyuan, I had seen similar handwriting. Back then, I just thought they were the Pei family's old accounts. Turns out mother had a copy too. Mother's passing from illness back then might not have been a simple death by illness. It was just getting dark when Qing He brought the news back. Second miss told me to steal the measurements of Miss's wedding dress. She lowered her voice. She also said someone over at the Count's manor would cooperate. She mentioned a person, Nanny Feng, the dowry maid of the Countess. I asked, what else did she say? She said, as long as her sister enters the Pei family's doors on the 18th of the 12th lunar month, the Count's manor could never possibly take her back. She also said Qinghe bit her lip. Hell already likes her anyway, she is only lacking a proper title. Taiwei spat. Where is her shame? I looked at that half of the account book. What she likes isn't Lu Jingheng. It is the gates of the Count's manor. Qinghe said carefully, Miss, will Lu really cooperate? I thought of Lu Jingheng from my previous life. After he and Shen Jiru performed the wedding bows, he saw me during the 3rd day home visit. There was no guilt in his eyes, only annoyance, he said. Things have already come to this. Let's each accept our fate. This person is not innocent. The next day, the Earl's mansion sent over seamstresses to fit the wedding dress, and the one accompanying them was none other than Nanny Feng. As soon as Mama Feng walked in, her eyes scanned my cabinet first. Her gaze slid past the brass lock on the cabinet door, then over the clothes trunk behind the screen before finally landing on my face. Eldest Miss is so lucky the Countess specifically had this old servant come and see if the wedding dress fits. Sorry to trouble you, Mama. While the seamstress was taking measurements, Mama Feng deliberately inched closer to the clothes trunk behind the screen. She walked without a sound, her footsteps like a cat stepping on a cushion. Too bad. What she stepped on was old wooden boards. Letting out a thick creak, Kaiwei blocked her. Mama, sit and drink your tea. The box is dusty. Don't get your hands dirty. Mama Feng gave a fake smile. The little maid has a sharp tongue. Her hands are sharp too. Just a few days ago, she caught an old servant stealing things. Mama Feng's hand holding the tea paused for a moment. Qinghe stood to the side and, following what Shen Jiru had taught her, deliberately said, Miss Second Miss is also trying on her wedding dress over there. I heard the patterns are about the same as yours. Mama Feng looked at her right away. A sharp glint flashed through those old eyes. I pretended not to hear, really. Sisters living in the same house. It is no surprise the patterns look a bit alike. Mama Feng breathed a sigh of relief, her shoulders visibly slumped. I saw her stuff a small copper token into Qinghe's sleeve when no one was looking. Her movement was as fast as a magic trick. Qinghe trembled a bit, but forced herself to hold it together and not blow her cover. After she left, she handed the copper token to me. The copper token was engraved with the mark of the west corner gate of the Earl's residence, with a string of serial numbers on the back. This was a pass for the side gate of the Earl's residence, counted by the steward every day. Kaiwei gasped. They even arranged for the side gate of the Earl's residence. I held the copper token. The copper token was ice cold, digging a mark into the palm of my hand. Nanny Feng is gambling with her life by daring to steal this thing. I flipped the copper token over and looked at the string of serial numbers on the back. The tokens of the Earl's residence are numbered, and the steward counts them every day. She probably stole one while the steward was drunk. If discovered, it is a huge crime. Kaiwei's face turned pale as she listened. Then why are they still doing it? Because they think they won't lose. I instructed Kaiwei, go get Nanny Chin. Have her take this half an account book back to the Sioux family to investigate my mother's illness from back then. Kaiwei asked, Miss, what about the marriage? The marriage goes on as planned. Still going on as planned. I tucked the copper token into my sleeve. The copper token pressed against my wrist bone, piercingly cold. They've set up such a big stage. If I don't go up, how are they going to finish the show? On the 8th day of the 12th lunar month, the Shen residence hosted a plum blossom viewing banquet. Madame Xu said that since I was going to marry into the Earl's residence, I should meet the ladies in the capital. However, most of the guests who came were familiar with the Xu family and the Pei family. As soon as I entered the flower hall, I heard someone laughing. Is this the eldest Miss Shen? I heard she has been running the household very strictly lately, not even taking her stepmother seriously. The one speaking was Madame Xu's niece, Xu Manyang. She was sitting by the window, waving a round fan in her hand. The plum blossoms on the fan were just as fake as the smile on her lips. Shen Jiro quickly said, Sister Manyang, don't talk nonsense. Sister is just worried something might go wrong with the wedding. Xu Manyang covered her mouth. What could possibly go wrong with a wedding at the Earl's mansion? Unless she dragged out her words. Simone isn't lucky enough to sit in that sedan chair. A few girls in the hall laughed along. I sat down and picked up my tea. Miss Sue knows so much about bridal sedans, you must have ridden in quite a few. Xu Manyang blushed. What nonsense are you talking? You spouted nonsense first. I just repeated it. How come you are allowed to run your mouth, but I am not allowed to have good ears? Kaiwei almost laughed out loud, Shen Jiru said aggrievedly. Sister Manyang is a guest. Guests should act like guests. Coming to someone's house to bite people, that is called a dog. Xu Manyang stood up angrily. Is this how she bullies Rua? Madame Xu's face darkened. Ning'er apologized. Everyone who came today is a guest. Do you have to offend them all to be happy? I looked at the hall full of female guests. Did Mother invite me here today to admire the plum blossoms, or to let people humiliate me? Who is humiliating you? Everyone is just joking. Then I am joking too. Miss Xu is like a dog, Mother. Don't take it seriously. Someone in the hall lowered their head to drink tea, their shoulders shaking non-stop. Shen Jiru looked grim. Sister, why do you have to be so final with your words? In the future, once you are at the Earl's mansion, who will still dare to associate with you? I am marrying a man, not associating. A male voice came from behind the screen. Eldest Miss Shen has quite a way with words. Lu Jingheng walked out. He was wearing a cyan brocade robe with a white jade pendant tied at his waist. His expression was gentle, a perfectly measured smile playing on his lips, like he was admiring a painting he wasn't quite satisfied with. But the plum blossom banquet is for women. How could an outsider man be here? Unless he arrived early and had been listening behind the screen the whole time. Madame Xu immediately smiled. What brings the air here? Mother asked me to drop off some gifts. I heard it was lively in the hall. Please pardon my intrusion. Lu Jingheng looked at me. Eldest Miss has a fiery temper, quite different from the rumors. When he said the word fiery, the corners of his mouth pressed down a bit. In my past life, I was once thrilled by these words. I thought he was finally looking at me properly. It was only later that I understood when men from noble families call you fiery. They're mostly complaining that you aren't tame enough. The air standing behind a screen listening to women's conversations is also different from the rumors, Madame Xu said anxiously. Ning'er. The smile on Lu Jingheng's face faded slightly. It was unintentional. My talking back was unintentional too. Xu Manyang seized the chance. Here, she even dares to snap at you. The Earl's mansion is really in for it from now on. Lu Jingheng gave her a look. With just that one look, Xu Manyang shut her mouth. The coldness in that look was more effective than any words. A flash of envy crossed Shenjira's eyes. That envy was hidden deep, but I recognized it in my past life, when she was sitting on the embroidered couch in the Earl's mansion. Her eyes had that exact same gleam. Lu Jingheng turned to me. The wedding procession is on the 18th of the 12th lunar month. Everything is already prepared in the mansion. I asked, isn't it the 16th of the 12th lunar month? He answered very naturally. The Countess said the 18th is more auspicious, and it saves trouble for both mansions. I looked at Lady Shu. Lady Shu avoided my gaze. She picked up her teacup, covering half her face. Father clearly promised me the wedding date wouldn't change. Now that the heir of the Count's mansion personally said the 18th, they've obviously decided it privately. I put down my teacup. The wedding date was agreed upon by the elders of both families. And you are only telling me today? Lu Jingheng frowned. When a woman gets married, she should just listen to her family's arrangements. And what if the arrangements are wrong? Shenjiro hastily said. Sister, the heir came to deliver gifts in person. Don't make a scene. Lu Jingheng looked at me. If eldest Miss Shen is unwilling to marry, I can go back and inform my mother. The hall instantly fell quiet. These words were heavy. If they spread, it would be said that I was acting spoiled and forced the Count's mansion to break off the engagement. Lady Shu's eyes hid a sense of satisfaction. I smiled. The heir has misunderstood. I am just reminding you, on the day of the wedding procession, there will be many roads, mixed crowds, and many sedans. The Count's mansion better see clearly who is who. Lu Jingheng's gaze darkened a bit, naturally. When he turned to leave, Nanny Feng looked back at me. That look wasn't like a servant looking at a future young madam, but more like looking at an object about to be moved away. After the banquet dispersed, Lady Shu called me to the small Buddhist hall. Mother's memorial tablet sat on the altar table. A thick layer of incense ash had piled up, making it obvious no one had wiped it in a long time. Shen Yining, you've completely disgraced the Shen family today. Mother secretly changed the wedding date. Aren't you afraid of losing face? Madame Shu stopped pretending. The 18th is the 18th. The Earl's mansion has already accepted it, so what else can you do? Shenjiro stood behind her and said softly, Sister, stop fighting. The heir doesn't like pushy women. Does he like someone like you? She blushed a little and didn't deny it. I took a step closer. Shenjiro, take my things once, and I'll chop your hand off once. Don't you dare, Madame Shu said sharply. I picked up the scissors from the altar table and cut off a string of pearls at Shenjiro's cuff. The beads clattered as they rolled all over the floor. Bouncing on the grey brick floor, they rolled under the altar table and rolled to Madame Shu's feet. Shenjiro screamed. I put the scissors back, just collecting a little interest first. Father punished me by making me kneel in the ancestral hall. The ancestral hall was cold. The cushion was thin. The memorial tablets were silent in the candlelight, and my mother's was squeezed right at the very edge. Kaiwei wanted to stay with me, but was blocked outside by Madame Shu. Qinghe slipped in while delivering the food and lowered her voice. The door to the ancestral hall behind her was still open a crack, cold wind pouring in, making the candle flames flicker. Miss, the second miss, is going to the Earl's mansion tonight to see Heir Lu. Nanny Feng arranged a carriage, leaving through the back door. I looked up. What is she going to do? This servant only heard one sentence. The heir said, Some things need to be settled in person. When? High hour. I glanced at the incense ash under the offering table. Buried in the ash was a half-burnt stick of incense. The front was completely cold ash, while the tail end still had a trace of lingering warmth. Go tell Kaiwei, have her wait in the back alley with my cloak. Qinghe got anxious. Miss, you are still kneeling, and there are people guarding outside the door. I walked to the window and pushed it open a crack. The wooden tenon of the back window of the ancestral hall was loose, and it would wobble with a gentle push. This was discovered when my mother took me to hide from the rain when I was a child. The summer downpour that year came suddenly, and my mother carried me in her arms to climb out through this window, watching the rainwater drip down along the eaves tiles from under the veranda. In my past life, I forgot. In this life, these old memories are actually clearer. What they are guarding is the door, not the window. At high hour, Shenjiro indeed got into the carriage at the back door. The carriage wheels rolled over the bluestone slabs, the sound carrying far in the night. The driver had deliberately wrapped cloth around the wheels, but the cloth was worn through, exposing the iron axle inside. Wearing the grey cloak Kaiwei brought, I followed to just outside the west side door of the Earl's mansion. Nanny Feng personally welcomed her inside. The lantern swayed in Nanny Feng's hand, illuminating Shenjiro's face. She wasn't wearing a veiled hat, nor was she wearing a cloak. Kaiwei was so angry her teeth itched. Miss, your fiancé is meeting your sister in the middle of the night. If word gets out, it'll land them in big trouble. Still not enough. The lights in the side courtyard of the Earl's mansion were very dim. 2 silhouettes were cast on the window paper, one tall and one short. Kaiwei and I hid under the window, listening to Lu Jinghang's voice leak out from the crack in the window, intermittent like the cold wind. You shouldn't have come tonight. Shenjiro cried softly. If I didn't come, is the heir really going to marry my sister? She talked back to you like that today, and you are still going to put up with it. Lu Jinghang was silent for a moment. The silhouettes on the window paper moved, getting a little closer. The engagement was set by my mother, but you said I was the one in your heart. The cold wind outside the window was like needles. In my past life, I actually thought they only developed feelings after the wedding ceremony. Turns out, long before the wedding, they were already having a secret affair. Lu Jinghang said, Ruar, if this works out and you enter the Count's manor, I will protect you. If it doesn't, neither of us can bear the consequences. Shenjiro said urgently, It will definitely work. Mother has everything arranged on her end. Qinghe will lead my sister into the wrong sedan chair, and Nanny Feng will make the people from the Count's manor accept me. Her voice grew faster and faster. Once we've performed the wedding ceremony, can she still snatch it back? Mama Feng's voice rang out. Watch your words, second Miss Walls have ears. Lu Jingheng asked, What about the Pei family? Shenjiro chuckled lightly. Pei Chengyuan thinks I am the one marrying him. If he sees sister, he'll definitely fly into a rage out of humiliation. With her reputation ruined, sister can only stay in the Pei family. Saiwei covered her mouth, scratching words into the dirt with her fingernail. I looked down. It was the words, shameless couple. I held her hand down. Lu Jinghang asked again, What if Shen Yining makes a fuss? Shenjiro's voice turned vicious. Father values face the most, and mother will talk her out of it. There aren't many people left in the Su family who can back her up now. How much of a fuss can she possibly make? I turned to leave. Saiwei held me back. Miss, aren't we going to catch them in the act? If we catch them now, the Count's estate will just say she was only here to deliver something. The heir will say we were eavesdropping. I lowered my voice. Once Shenjiro cries a little, the fault will become mine again. Then what should we do? Make it so they can't explain themselves on the big day. Just as I returned to the ancestral hall, Father arrived. Seeing me kneeling on the futon, his expression softened a bit. If you had been this well-behaved earlier, why would you have been punished? I looked up. Is there something you need, Father? The wedding date is set for the 18th, and the Count's estate has also changed theirs. Don't make a fuss again. And if I don't agree, Father frowned. Shen Yining, what exactly do you want? Your sister's marriage has already been made difficult by the Pei family's free clinic commotion. Do you still want to embarrass both of the Shen family's marriages? So in order to prevent the Shen family from being embarrassed, your daughter should just shut up. In a woman's life, getting married is the most important thing. It is your blessing that the Count's estate is willing to marry you. I looked at Mother's memorial tablet. If Mother was still here, would she say the same thing? Father's face looked awful. Don't use your mother to pressure me. Father knows too that Mother could keep you in check. He raised his hand. The slap stopped in midair, trembled twice, and ultimately didn't come down. You are getting married on the 18th. Say one more word, and I'll have someone tie you up and throw you into the Sudan. After he left, Qinghe quietly came in, her face covered in tears. Miss, I really deserved to die before. I closed my eyes. There are plenty of people who deserve to die. You are not first in line. On the 12th day of the 12th lunar month, the people from the Su family were blocked outside the door by Madame Shu. Nanny Chin stood at the door for an hour. The winter sun was as thin as paper and shining on her. Even her shadow was faint. Madame Shu just had the gatekeeper pass a message saying I was sick and wasn't seeing guests. When I found out, I came straight out of the ancestral hall. The gatekeeper woman reached out to stop me. Madam ordered the eldest miss cannot leave the courtyard. Is she the madam, or a jailer? The old woman's hand was still stretched out. Kaiwei, holding a basin of newly thawed cold water, splashed it straight at her. Your hands aren't clean, wash them. When I arrived at the mansion gate, Nanny Chin was being pushed out by the gatekeeper. She had 1 foot outside the threshold and 1 foot still inside. Her body was tilted. And even her silver hairpin was askew. Nanny, when she saw me, she hurriedly fished a cloth bundle out from her bosom. The bundle was warm from her body heat. After unwrapping several layers, right in the center was an old prescription and a broken half-piece of jade. Miss, the old madam told this old servant to hand it to you personally. The gatekeeper reached out to grab it. Madam said outside things aren't allowed in the mansion. I clamped my hand around his wrist. His wrist bone dug into my palm. Who gave you the nerve? The porter bent over in pain. Eldest, have mercy. Lady Shu hurried over. Ninga, what are you making a fuss about now? Things sent by the Su family should also be shown to me first. What if they're inauspicious? Momochin trembled with anger. Since when is it your turn, Lady Shu, to inspect whether our Su family's things are auspicious or not? Lady Shu's face darkened. Watch your words, Momo. This is the Shen residence. I unwrapped the cloth bundle. On the prescription, one ingredient was circled in cinnabar. The handwriting was delicate. With a habit of hooking inwards at the end of a stroke, I recognized that as Lady Shu's handwriting. Momochin lowered her voice. The old madam found out that back then, this ingredient was added to the soothing soup madam took during her illness. It is harmless on its own, but when used together with the tonics madam regularly consumed, it damages the lungs over time. The broken jade was found in the home of the maid who brewed the medicine back then, and the other half was used to offset silver in the Shu family shop's accounts. All the color drained from Lady Shu's face. You are talking nonsense. Father was alerted and came out. What prescription? I handed the prescription to him. He took just one look, and his hand froze. His hand pinched that thin piece of paper. The paper trembled in the wind, causing his hand to tremble along with it. Lady Shu lunged over to snatch it. This is a forgery, master. This was forged by Shen Yining to change the wedding date. Nanny Chin sneered. Madam Shu, the maid who brewed the medicine back then, is still alive. The old madam didn't want to see blood before the eldest Mrs. marriage. So she had me come ask the Shen family first whether or not you want to give the Su family an explanation. Pedestrians on the street had already stopped. Someone poked their head in to look and tripped over the threshold. Afraid of blowing things out of proportion, Madam Shu immediately cried, Master, I didn't. Sister treated me like her own sister. How could I harm her? Father's face alternated between green and pale. Shen Jiro supported Madam Shu and looked at me crying. Sister, just to stop the wedding date from being changed, you'd actually use an old matter to slander mother. I stared at her. You are in such a rush. Are you afraid that if Madam Shu falls, no one will swap the marriage for you? She reacted like her tail had been stepped on. I don't understand. You understand, Father said sternly. All of you shut up. We'll talk about this when we return to the residence. Nanny Chin blocked in front of me. Lord Shen, the old madam said. If the miss loses even a single hair before she marries, the Su family will carry Madame Su's memorial tablet to the Imperial Street and beat the drum for justice. Father didn't dare say any more harsh words. I put away the prescription and turned to return to the courtyard. Behind me came Madame Shu's suppressed crying and Shen Jiro's low words of comfort. That night, the Shen residence was unusually quiet. Qinghe brought the news. Madam smashed half a room of things. The second miss said they must make their move early. They need to send Kaiwei away the night before the miss marries. Kaiwei jumped up on the spot. I am not leaving, I asked. Using what excuse? Sister Kaiwei's brother and sister-in-law came, saying mother is critically ill and wants to see her one last time. Madam has already sent someone to find them and gave them silver. Kaiwei's face turned pale. In the past life, this was the exact excuse. I held her hand. Her palms were full of cold sweat. You are not seeing them this time. If they come, I will. Kaiwei gritted her teeth. Miss, this servant wants to ask them personally if they have a heart. It is useless to ask. I looked out the window. Some people only have silver in their hearts. On the 15th of the 12th lunar month, Kaiwei's brother and sister-in-law showed up just as expected. The two knelt outside the second gate, wailing to the heavens. Zhang slapped her legs and howled, crying louder than a stage play. Yet the corners of her eyes were so dry she couldn't squeeze out half a teardrop. My poor little sister-in-law. Mother is dying. Kaiwei trembled with anger in the room. My mother died 3 years ago. Go out, she froze. Miss, if you don't go out, they'll keep making a scene. Go make things clear. A crowd of servants gathered outside the second gate. As soon as Jiang saw Kaiwei, she lunged forward to grab her. "Hurry and come with me, mother is taking her last breath." Kaiwei dodged. "The grass on my mother's grave has been growing for 3 years. Where exactly is she taking her last breath?" Everyone froze in surprise. Jiang panicked for a second, then immediately changed her tune. "It is your sister-in-law's mother, which makes her your mother too." Kaiwei's brother, Wang Dagui, said fear. "Cut the crap. Your indenture contract is almost up. Come back with us to get married." They gave 50 taels for the bride price. Kaiwei laughed, laughing until tears came out. 50 taels and you are selling me a second time." Wang Dagui raised his hand to strike before his slap could fall. I stepped out from the veranda. "Did you ask me before hitting my maid?" Mrs. Jiang immediately changed her tune. "Eldest miss, this is our family business. Kaiwei is a member of the Wang family. You can't stop her from doing her filial duty." "Who gave you the silver to come make a scene today?" Mrs. Jiang's eyes darted around. "No one." Kaiwei rushed over, yanked the money pouch from Mrs. Jiang's chest and poured out 2 silver ingots. A pearl hairpin rolled out from between the ingots. The pearls were a mix of old and new, and one was obviously added on later. It was exactly the new one Shenjiro had made after I cut the pearls off hers. The servants whispered among themselves, the sound like wind blowing through a wheat field. Mrs. Jiang tried to snatch it back. "Give it back to me." Kaiwei held the hairpin up, lifting it high so that everyone could see. "When my mum died, you said the family was poor and wouldn't even give her a cheap coffin. Now you take a hairpin someone else gave you to sell me. Do you even have the right to mention Mom?" Wang Dagui flew into a rage out of humiliation, shoved Mrs. Jiang aside and charged forward. "You money-losing bitch." The gatekeepers pinned him down. Mrs. Xu finally appeared. "What is all this yelling about, Ninga? The family is hosting a joyous occasion, and you let your maid cause a scene like this." I handed the pearl hairpin over. "Does mother recognize this?" Mrs. Xu took a glance. "There are plenty of similar hairpins in the capital." Shenjiro stepped out from behind her, looking very pale. "Sister, are you suspecting me?" Kaiwei snapped. "It is not suspicion, you are just stupid enough to leave evidence behind." Shenjiro cried. "Even a maid dares to slander me, sister. Is this how you teach your servants?" "She learned it from me, settle scores right on the spot." Kaiwei walked up to Mrs. Jiang. "A slap," Mrs. Jiang screamed. "This slap is for my mum." "Another slap. This slap is for my past self." The crowd didn't get it, just figuring she was out of her mind with anger. I understood. In her past life, she died in the woodshed, still clutching that silver melon seed in her palm. These 2 slaps in this life were for her past self, Madame Xu said angrily. "This is an outrage. Somebody come." When father rushed over, the scene was already in complete chaos. I spoke up first. "Father, Shenjiro used a hairpin to bribe Kaiwei's brother and sister-in-law, trying to send my personal maid away before my wedding. First, there was the Earl's mansion pattern, and now Kaiwei's brother and sister-in-law. If father still says it is nothing, your daughter can only take these people to the Earl's mansion and ask who is so eager to see me with no one by my side." Shenjiro cried so hard she could barely stand. "Father, I didn't." Wang Dagui, held down by the gatekeeper, suddenly yelled. "It was given by Fanger from the second Mrs. side. She said as long as I take Kaiwei away, there is another 50 taels." Shenjiro's crying abruptly stopped, like a thread snipped off with a single cut. Madame Xu's face turned livid. "Nonsense." Wang Dagui got anxious. "I am not talking nonsense." Fanger also said, "On the wedding day of the eldest miss, Kaiwei wouldn't be needed, having Qinghe is enough." Everyone's gaze fell on Qinghe, fell to her knees with a thud. "Master, this servant knows her mistake." The second miss really did ask this servant to lead the miss to the west gate on the wedding day. This servant was scared and already told the miss. Shenjiro screamed, "You betrayed me." As soon as the words left her mouth, she froze too. Father looked at her, his face darkening bit by bit. "Rua, what did you ask Qinghe to do?" Shenjiro cried, shaking her head. "Father, it was just a slip of the tongue. I was just afraid that the people around my sister were too clumsy," Siwei sneered, watching the road all the way to the west gate. The Earl's mansion's wedding procession goes through the main gate. Only the Pei family's wedding procession goes through the west gate. Do you think we don't have ears? I placed the copper token in front of Father. Nanny Feng gave this to Qinghe. It is the token for the Earl's mansion's west corner gate. There is a serial number on the back, and the steward counts them daily. If Father doesn't recognize it, you can ask someone from the Earl's mansion to come and identify it. Madame Xu quickly stepped forward, trying to snatch the copper token. Kai Wei was faster than her, stepping right on the hem of her skirt. Madame Xu staggered a bit, grabbing onto the porch pillar to keep from falling. Father stared at the copper token, his voice terrifyingly low. Where did this thing come from? Qinghe grovelled on the ground. Nanny Feng handed it to this servant herself. She waited until the steward was drunk to steal one out. She told this servant to lead the miss to the west gate on the wedding day, saying someone would naturally be there to receive her. Madame Xu immediately said, "How can you take a cheap maid's word seriously?" "It is fine if you don't take it seriously. Tomorrow we can invite the Countess over, call Mama Feng here, and let them confront each other." Shen Jiro screamed. "No," she shouted too hastily. Everyone looked at her. Realizing she had lost her composure, she hurriedly changed her tune. "I mean, the Count's estate is sister's future-in-law's. It is not good to make a scene like this." I leaned down to look at her. "So you also know it is not good, sister." She bit her lip, tears dropping onto the ground one by one. Her lips were bitten white. In my past life, when I saw her cry, I would feel bad for her. Now I just find it noisy. Father finally spoke. "Simona, take the second miss back to her courtyard. Without my word, she is not allowed out." Madame Xu rushed over to protect her master. "Ruer is getting married the day after tomorrow. What would the Pei family think? If the Pei family asks, just say she is sick." As Shen Jiro was dragged away by the older female servants, she looked back at me, her eyes no longer feigning weakness. "Sister, do you think you've won just like this? I only know you are about to lose." She let out a laugh. That laugh was high-pitched, like fingernails scraping across porcelain. "Then let's see." That laugh reminded me of the night in the side courtyard of the Count's estate. She still has something up her sleeve. Father dismissed everyone, leaving only me behind. He sat on the stone bench, his back hunched, one hand resting on his knee, as if he had suddenly aged 10 years. "Yining, how far are you going to take this? Until no one dares to push me into a fire pit. The Count's manor isn't a fire pit. Isn't the Pei family one too?" Father turned his face away. "When a woman marries, things can't always go her way. If you really marry into the Pei family, Pei Chengjuan is still a good match." I smiled. "So Father knew all along that they were going to swap the marriages?" He looked at me sharply. I didn't. "Then why does Father say it so smoothly?" I looked into his eyes, saying it as if you had already figured out a way out for me. He opened his mouth, but didn't answer. I put the copper token away. "Father, I'll give the Shen family one more chance. On the 18th of the 12th month, the right sedan will pick up the right bride, and the right husband will bow with the right wife. If anyone sticks their hands in again, I'll rip the faces off the Shen family, the Xu family, the Count's manor, and the Pei family, all together." Father said angrily, "You are just a sheltered girl. What gives you the right?" I turned around and walked out. "Because I've died once." Behind me, a teacup smashed onto the ground, broken porcelain shards splashing to the edge of the threshold. I didn't look back. After returning to my courtyard, Nanny Chin was already waiting. She placed an old pouch on the table. "Miss, this is the second item the old lady asked me to bring." Inside the pouch was a broken half-piece of jade, which surprisingly fit together with the previous half. The seam was flawlessly tight, and the character Shu was carved on the back of the jade. Nanny Chin said, "The maid who brewed the medicine back then confessed. Madame Xu gave her silver to add that ingredient to Madame's medicine. The maid didn't dare to take the silver, so Madame Xu used this piece of jade as collateral, and later redeemed half of it. The other half was hidden in a crack in the wall at the maid's house, hidden for a full 11 years. Wei cursed, venomous woman. I asked, "Where is she?" "The Su family is protecting her," old Madame said. "If you want to expose it, miss, expose it on the wedding day. With so many people around, the Shen family won't be able to suppress it." I touched the cold edge of the broken jade. The wedding day will really be lively. Qinghe stood at the door and whispered, Miss Second Miss had someone send a letter to the Earl's mansion. Did it get sent out? I swapped it. She pulled a letter from her sleeve. This is the original. I wrote another one just like you taught me, miss, saying everything proceeds as usual, and Qinghe will still lead you to the west gate. Kaiwei glared at her. You sure learned fast. Qinghe smiled bitterly. I am afraid of dying, but even more afraid of having nightmares again. My dreams are filled with the look in your eyes, miss. I tore open Shen Jiru's letter. There were only a few lines inside, the handwriting messy, the ink sometimes dark and sometimes faint. Half the plan has failed. Shen Yining has the bronze token in her hands. The 18th proceeds as usual. If it doesn't work, I'd rather ruin her. I put the letter into the lamp's flame. The paper burned to ash, leaving a burnt smell in the room. The ashes fell onto the table so light they scattered with a single blow. See, I looked at that 17-year-old face in the bronze mirror. The only things that can be ruined for a woman are her reputation and her life. On the night of the 17th of the 12th lunar month, there wasn't a bit of joy in the Shen residence. 4 old women appeared outside my courtyard, saying they were sent by my father to serve me. They sat at the door cracking melon seeds, spitting the shells all over the ground, the key rings at their waists jingling clink-clank. Kaiwei walked past them carrying a sewing basket, deliberately flashing the scissors. Whoever reaches out too far, I'll give them a trim. An old woman spat, born a maid. But with a young lady's temper, Kaiwei turned around about to curse, but I stopped her. Save your strength, we'll need it tomorrow. After dark, Madame Xu brought over a bowl of soothing soup. She carried it herself with dark circles under her eyes, still forcing out the look of a loving mother. A silver spoon rested on the rim of the bowl, its handle engraved with a bat pattern that was something from my mother's dowry. Ning'er, you are getting married tomorrow. No matter how many misunderstandings we've had in the past, it is time to let them go. Drink the soup and get a good night's sleep. I looked at the few drops of medicinal oil floating on the surface of the soup. Did my mother drink this kind of soup back then too? Madame Xu's wrist jolted, spilling a few drops. The soothing soup splashed onto the table, its color looking dark. You child, why bring up the past again? If the past isn't settled, the future won't be at peace. She set the bowl down on the table. Suit yourself if you won't drink it. Just don't faint in the sedan chair tomorrow and embarrass the Shen family. Would it to the old women at the door. They work hard keeping the night watch. Madame Xu's expression changed instantly. This is for you. Can't bear to part with it, mother. The old women at the door heard there was soup and poked their heads in. The oldest of them stared straight at that bowl of soup. Madame Xu gritted her teeth. Ning'er, I only meant well. All the more reason to share such good intentions with everyone. Kaiwei carried the bowl out. Come, come, come. It is a reward from Madam. Whoever drinks it will be blessed. The 4 old women looked at each other, no one daring to take it. Finally, the oldest one reached out but pulled back but reached out again, and in the end still didn't dare to touch the rim of the bowl. Turns out good fortune picks favorites too. Madame Xu stopped pretending and lowered her voice. Shen Yining, don't get too smug. After tomorrow, you'll know that no matter how smart a woman is, she still can't fight fate. You don't get to write my fate. She stared at me, suddenly saying softly, Your mother said the same thing back then. I raised my hand and slapped her across the face. It went dead silent inside and outside the room. Madame Xu clutched her face, taking a long moment to react. You dare hit me, collecting a debt for my mother first. She lunged over, and Kaiwei and Qinghe blocked her from the left and right. Father rushed over upon hearing the news, and seeing the handprint on Lady Xu's face, he flew into a rage, Shen Yining. I pushed the soothing soup in front of him. Father, you are just in time. None of the 4 old maidservants at the door dared to drink the soup Mother sent over. If Father believes her, you might as well drink it for your daughter. Father looked at Lady Xu, cried, Master, I only added some wild jujube seeds to soothe the nerves. Then let's have the manor doctor come and test it. Madame Xu screamed, calling the manor doctor to test the soup sent by your stepmother on the night before the wedding. Are you trying to drive me to my death? Father hesitated. Nanny Chin's voice came from outside the courtyard gate. No need to call the manor doctor. The Su family brought a doctor. Maternal grandmother walked in leaning on a cane, followed by 2 Su family servants and a white-bearded doctor. My nose stung. Grandmother. The old woman held my hand, her palm bony and strong. Don't be afraid, your mother is gone, but your grandmother isn't dead yet. Madame Chu's face was deathly pale. Isn't it too rude to barge into the Shen residence late at night, old madam? My grandmother didn't even look at her. Did you care about manners when you harmed my daughter? The doctor had already used a silver needle to test the soup and dabbed a little into his mouth. A moment later, he put down the silver needle. The tip had turned slightly black. There is a knockout drug in the soup, and the dose isn't light. If you drink it, you'll be out cold until at least tomorrow afternoon. Father took a step back. His heel caught on the threshold, and he swayed a little. Madame Chu immediately defended herself. I don't know, it is the people in the kitchen framing me. Grandmother threw the prescription and the broken jade at her feet. The broken jade hit the blue brick floor, bounced twice, and rolled to the edge of Madame Chu's skirt. The people in the kitchen have been framing you for over 10 years. Are you going to pin Madame Chu's death on the kitchen too? Madame Chu looked at the broken jade, her legs going weak for a moment. Father picked up the prescription, his voice hoarse. It really was you. Madame Chu suddenly laughed. Her laugh was uglier than crying, her mouth grinning while tears streamed down. So what if it was me? When Madame Chu was alive, you only had eyes for her. After she died, didn't you marry me all the same? Shen Huili, stop pretending to be so deeply in love. Father's face looked as if he had been whipped. I said, tomorrow is the big wedding. Madame Chu cannot show her face. Father was still in a daze. He looked at the prescription in his hand, his fingertips rubbing the edge of the paper as if trying to make out whether that hook was real. Maternal grandmother answered for him. Tie her up and lock her away. After tomorrow, send her to the authorities. Madame Chu threw herself at father. Master Rua is getting married tomorrow. You can't let her go without a mother to see her off. Father closed his eyes. Take her away. The old maidservants finally didn't dare side with Madame Chu anymore, dragging her away in a flurry of hands. She cursed the whole way, shouting Shen Zhiru's name, her voice carrying far into the night. The sound of a door slamming soon came from the east courtyard. Xinghe ran back. Second miss is trying to kill herself. What did she use? White silk. Kaiwei rolled her eyes. The beam in her room is so low, even stepping on a stool is a hassle. Grandmother looked at me. Ninger, are you really going to marry into the Earl's mansion tomorrow? I am. That boy from the Liu family is no good. I know. You knew and still married him. I put the bronze token, the old letters, and Shen Zhiru's letter all together on the table. If I don't go, the show can't start. I want them to spit out everything they owe me, piece by piece, right there in the wedding hall. Grandmother was silent for a long time, then patted my head. You are like your mother. My mother was too kind. Grandmother had tears in her eyes, but she smiled. Then don't be kind. The 18th of the 12th lunar month before dawn, 2 bridal sedans stood in front of the Shen residence. One was the grand vermilion sedan of the Jing'an Count's residence, with an interlocking branch pattern on its curtain, 8 neatly dressed sedan bearers, and poles wrapped in red silk embroidered with 100 boys motif. The other was the Pei family's wedding sedan, garishly red, and its curtain had also been swapped for the interlocking branch pattern, without looking closely. You couldn't tell the difference at all. Kaiwei stood behind me, her voice hoarse from anger. They really dare, Qinghe said softly. Miss, 2 of the Pei family's sedan bearers aren't the original guys. They look unfamiliar to the servant, and they have sword calluses on their hands. What about the Count's residence? Nanny Feng is waiting at the west gate. She thinks this servant will take Miss over there. I put on the phoenix coronet. As the pearl curtain fell, my vision became a sea of red as the mouthful of blood I coughed up in my past life. Father stood in the corridor, looking as if he had aged 10 years overnight. He looked at my phoenix coronet. His lips moved a few times, and finally he only said one sentence, "Don't make too much of a scene today." What Father is afraid of right now is still the Shen family's face. I will deal with Madame Chu. That is what you owe my mother, not a favor granted to me. Grandmother sat in the main hall, twirling prayer beads in her hand. Her voice wasn't loud, but every word hit the ground like a nail. Shen Hailey, if anyone dares to touch my granddaughter today, I'll have someone carry the Sioux family's memorial tablet into the palace gate. Father didn't dare say another word when Shenjiro came out of the east courtyard. Her bridal veil wasn't on securely, revealing half of a pale face. Lady Shu wasn't there, leaving only 2 panicked maids by her side. Even the wedding matron was found at the last minute. As she walked past me, her footsteps paused for a moment. Sister, do you think just because Mother is down, I am out of options? You still have Lu Jingheng. A laugh came from under her veil. You know this, and still dare to get in the sedan chair. You know that I know, and you still dare to do it. She paused for a moment, then walked forward, supported by the wedding matron. The wedding procession's drum music started playing. The suona was piercing. The gongs and drums were deafening. Firecrackers exploded by our feet, and red paper confetti flew all over the sky. According to the rules, the Earl's Mansion sedan chair was at the main gate, and the Pei family sedan chair was at the side gate. Qing He suddenly said loudly, "Miss, there are too many people at the main gate. Madam ordered last night for you to get in the sedan chair from the west gate." Everyone's gaze turned toward us. Father demanded sharply, "Who ordered this?" Qing He pretended to be more scared than anyone else. It was the second miss who said it. She said the people from the Earl's Mansion were waiting at the west gate, and that there are too many people and prying eyes at the main gate. Shenjiro abruptly lifted her bridal veil. The bridal veil flew up, then fell to the ground, flipped over by the wind. You are talking nonsense. The relatives watching the commotion in front of the door all saw her face pale without the slightest bit of joy. The wedding matron exclaimed, "Second miss, you can't lift the veil." I lifted the pearl curtain. "What is the rush?" Sister, Qing He misspoke, just correct it. Shenjiro stared dead at Qing He. "Bitch." Qing He knelt down. "Spare my life. Second miss. Your servant was just saying what you ordered last night. You said as long as the miss went to the west gate, someone from the Earl's Mansion would naturally be there to pick her up." Someone among the relatives discussed in a low voice. "Ordered last night. Were they going to swap sedans?" Pei Chengyuan was riding on a horse, wearing a bright red wedding robe today, with a red silk flower tied to his chest, originally supposed to look high-spirited. But his face changed the moment he saw Shenjiro lift the veil. "Ra, what is going on?" As soon as Shenjiro saw him, she immediately softened her voice. "Brother Chengyuan, believe me, I didn't. Qing He was bribed by someone to harm me." Old Madame Pei's face had already darkened. If the Shen family can't give an explanation today, where will the Pei family put its face? The wedding manager of the Earl's Mansion also stepped forward and bowed. "First, miss, the auspicious hour is important. Please get in the sedan. Where is your heir? The heir is waiting in the mansion. Where is Mama Feng?" The manager's eyes flickered. "This old servant doesn't know." Kai Wei immediately lifted the bronze plaque up, holding it even higher than that pearl hairpin from just now. "You don't know. Did the token from the west side gate of the Count's residence grow legs and run to the Shen residence by itself? The serial number is still on it." The steward's face changed. Grandmother spoke up. "Bring Mama Feng here." The Count's residence steward braced himself. "Old madam, today is a joyous occasion. It is not appropriate to grandmother's walking stick struck the ground heavily, kicking up a cloud of dust. If a joyous occasion is stolen, then it is a funeral." There was a commotion outside the door. The Sioux family servants dragged Mama Feng over. Her hair bun was a mess, and she was still yelling. "How impudent! I am someone by the Countess's side." Nanny Chin sneered. "Who were you waiting for at the west side gate?" Mama Feng saw me, then saw Shenjiro. Her gaze bounced back and forth between our two faces twice, and her throat bobbed. "Mama Feng, who is the Count's resident, supposed to pick up today?" "Naturally, it is the eldest Miss Shen." I held the bronze token right up to her eyes. The bronze token was less than an inch from the tip of her nose. "Then why did you give this to Qing He?" Mama Feng shut her mouth. Her lips pressed into a tight line, the laugh lines at the corners of her mouth as deep as knife cuts. Shenjiro cried, "Sister, do you have to ruin me today?" I looked at her. "The one ruining you today is yourself." Pei Chengyuan dismounted. He walked up to Shenjiro, his boot soles stepping on the firecracker debris with a rustling sound. "Rua, tell me, are you unwilling to marry me?" "I am not." Shenjiro grabbed his sleeve, her fingers twisting the fabric. Then why did you have Qinghe lead her to the west gate? Why did you have Nanny Feng wait there? Shenjiro was backed into a corner. It was Lu Jingheng who made me do this. The moment the words came out, the crowd in front of the door completely blew up. The steward of the Earl's estate turned deathly pale. Second miss, watch your words. Since the heir was mentioned, let's go to the Earl's estate and ask. Father said anxiously, yining, the auspicious hour is almost over. I turned around and got into the sedan chair of the Earl's mansion. The moment the sedan curtain dropped, I spoke to the outside through the curtain. Let's go to the Jing'an Earl's mansion. Shenjiro tried to step back. Old Madame Pei grabbed her wrist. The old lady had managed the household for years and had quite a strong grip, squeezing Shenjiro so tight that her face turned pale. You go today. The Pei family is going to see for ourselves whether we are asking to marry a daughter-in-law or someone else's sweetheart. Pei Chengjuan didn't intervene. He looked at Shenjiro and for the first time didn't speak up for her. When the bridal sedan was lifted, Kaiwei said from outside the sedan, Miss, the knives are all sharpened. Through the sedan curtain, wind and snow poured in from the gaps, blowing the beaded curtains until they jingled, and let them draw blood. The entrance of the Jing'an Count's manor was full of guests. 2 rows of lanterns were hung up, and red silk draped from the lintel down to the ground. Double happiness characters were plastered all over the walls, the gold powder reflecting the sunlight. Lu Jingheng stood on the steps wearing his wedding suit. From afar, he saw both sedan chairs arriving, and his expression relaxed at first, but when he saw that Shenjiro was also being led out of the vehicle by the Pei family, his smile stiffened on his face. Before he even had time to drop it, the smile just froze at the corners of his mouth. The Countess came out to greet them. She was wearing her official title dress today, and the pearls and jewels all over her head weighed her neck down, making it lean slightly forward. What is going on? Why is the second miss of the Shen family here too? Old Madame Pei sneered. Ask your son, Lu Jingheng said in a deep voice. Old Madame Pei, today is my wedding with the eldest Miss Shen. It is against proper etiquette for you to bring Raoa here to cause a scene. Pei Chengyuan looked up at him. Calling her Raoa sure rolls right off your tongue, heir. Some guests exchanged glances in the corner. An old Hanlin scholar took off his hat and slowly wiped it in his hands. Shenjiro cried as she looked at Lu Jingheng. Shizi, I was forced to come here. Kaiwei helped me out of the sedan chair, my bridal veil already taken off. I parted the beaded curtain under the phoenix coronet to both sides, revealing my full face. The Countess's face darkened. Eldest Miss Shen taking off the bridal veil before the wedding ceremony. Is this how the Shen family teaches its daughters? The Earl's mansion teaching the heir to meet his fiancée's sister at night is actually more clever than the Shen family. The Countess snapped. You are talking nonsense. I looked at Mama Feng. Are you going to say it, Mama, or should I say it for you? Mama Feng clenched her jaw tightly. Her jaw muscles bulged, forming 2 hard lumps on both sides of her cheeks. Grandmother's carriage arrived. Nanny Chin helped her down behind them. 2 servants escorted a frail woman. She wore a faded grey cloth outfit. Her hair was dry and yellowish, and her face was full of wrinkles carved by wind and frost. It was none other than Chunyang, the maid who brewed medicine for my mother back then. The Countess frowned. Old Lady Sue, why did you bring these people here? Grandmother leaned on her cane, walking up the steps step by step, to drink at the wedding feast, and to get a good look at a show while I am at it. I took out Shenjiro's letter. Lu Jingheng, on the 8th day of the 12th lunar month, Shenjiro sneaked in through the west corner gate of the Earl's mansion in the middle of the night, and met you in the side courtyard. You said you would protect her if things worked out. Do you dare to admit it? Lu Jingheng looked terrible. He reached out to touch the jade pendant at his waist, fumbling twice before grasping it. You had someone follow me. Just answer if you admit it or not. He didn't answer. Pei Chengyuan stared at Shenjiro. Rao, did you really come to the Earl's mansion that night? Shenjiro cried. I just came to beg the heir to persuade my sister not to bully me. Kaiwei spat. Pa, sneaking into a man's side courtyard in the middle of the night to ask for persuasion. You sure know how to pick a time. With so many ways to persuade someone in the capital, you just had to pick this one. The countess shouted angrily. A mere maid drag her away. The Su family servants immediately blocked in front of Kaiwei. 4 servants stood side by side like a wall. Grandmother said, "Whoever wants to touch her, ask my cane first." Lu Jingheng took a deep breath. His Adam's apple bobbed up and down once. Shen Yining. Our engagement was arranged by our elders. If you don't want to marry, you can just break it off. Why drag an innocent woman into this? Innocent. I turned to Pei Chengyuan. Young Master Peish, do you want to know what she wrote in her letter to you? Pei Chengyuan was taken aback. Qinghe took the letter from her sleeve and handed it to him. The envelope was stained with sweat from Qinghe's palm, and the paper was a bit damp. Pei Chengyuan tore it open, read 2 lines, and the blood drained completely from his face. He couldn't keep reading, and the letter paper rustled loudly as it shook in his hands. Old Madame Pei snatched it away and read it out loud. If I can't get into the Earl's mansion, I'd rather ruin her. As for Pei Chengyuan, just keep stringing him along for now. There was a collective gasp from the guests. Someone knocked over a teacup, and the tea ran down the edge of the table. Shen Jiru lunged forward to grab it. That is not my handwriting. Shen Yining forged it. I took out the original letter she wrote to Lu Jingheng. Then what about this one? Half the plan failed. Shen Yining has the bronze token in her hand. 18 remains as usual. If it doesn't work out, I'd rather destroy her. The 2 letters were placed together. The handwriting was identical. Even the little habit of hooking inward at the end of a stroke was exactly the same. The 2 letters lay side by side on the wedding table like a pair of twins. Lu Jingheng's expression finally changed. His jawline was clenched dead tight, and his pupils contracted slightly. "Ruwa, why didn't you burn it?" Shenjiro suddenly looked at him. This sentence was harsher than any evidence. He essentially admitted to the existence of this letter. The countess said sharply, "Jingheng." Pei Chengyuan took a step back, his shoulder bumping into the wedding table. The nuptial wine on the table wobbled twice, but ultimately didn't fall over. "So you 2 have long had an affair. You didn't want to marry me, so you made the eldest Miss Shen enter the Pei family in your place." Shenjiro cried and shook her head, tears wetting the embroidery on her collar. She reached out to pull Pei Chengyuan's sleeve, but he dodged it. "Brother Chengyuan, I am also sincere towards you." Old Madame Pei laughed from anger. "Also, my Pei family spent 88 chests of betrothal gifts to marry a daughter-in-law who has 2 men in her heart." Shenjiro trembled from being scolded. She suddenly turned to me, pointing her finger over, her fingertips trembling. "She forced me. Since childhood, father loved her. Her maternal grandfather's family protected her, and the counter-state's marriage contract was also hers. What do I have? I just wanted a good life for once." I walked closer to her. "A good life isn't something you steal." She suddenly pulled out a small pair of scissors from her sleeve. The scissors weren't big, but the tip was polished extremely bright. It was a pair of embroidery scissors. Shenjiro was good at embroidery, and these scissors never left her side. Kaiwei landed a kick on her wrist. The scissors hit the ground, bounced twice on the blue bricks, and the tip got chipped. Shenjiro was held down, still shouting, "Shen Yining, what gives you the right to start over?" The surroundings instantly went quiet for a moment. Lu Jingheng stared at her, the light in his eyes like a candle wick blown out by the wind. The way he looked at her was like looking at a stranger. "What did you say?" I leaned over, picked up the scissors, and put them on the table. Next to the scissors were 2 unfolded letters, and beside them was the bronze plaque Nanny Feng had given. "Sister has gone crazy." She knew, maybe she had already guessed a thing or 2 from my unusual behavior. When father rushed to the Earl's mansion, he heard the guests gossiping everywhere. He stood at the door, not wearing his official uniform, just slipping on a casual grey squirrel jacket. I looked at him. "Father, you came at just the right time. Today the daughters of the Shen family should each return to where they belong." Old Madame Pei said coldly, "Our Pei family wouldn't dare take Shenjiro." The Earl's madam also immediately said, "The Earl's mansion definitely wouldn't want a woman with such character either." Shenjiro completely panicked. She crawled on her knees towards Lu Jingheng, her knees scraping over the stone bricks, her skirt dragging a dusty trail on the ground. "Hair, you said you would protect me." Lu Jingheng avoided her eyes. "I never said that." Nanny Feng couldn't help but look up at him. That glance was very brief. So brief it was only a split second, but I caught it. Nanny Feng, he won't admit it. So you won't either. Nanny Feng's lips trembled, her upper and lower teeth chattering. This old servant was just following orders. The Earl's madam scolded angrily. Whose orders were you following? Nanny Feng suddenly pointed at Lu Jingheng. Her fingers were thin and bony, knuckles sticking out like a dead branch. The heir ordered this old servant to prepare the west corner door. The heir said that as long as second Miss Shen entered the Earl's estate, Madam would have no choice but to accept it just to save face. Lu Jingheng kicked her over. This kick completely stripped away his last layer of gentlemanly disguise. The sole of his boot struck Nanny Feng's shoulder. She fell backward, and the back of her head almost smashed into the steps. Simone among the guests muttered, I can't believe the heir of the Earl's estate would do something like this. The Earl's madam gripped the doorframe, barely keeping her balance. I looked at Lu Jingheng. Now do you still want to perform the wedding vows? He stared at me, his gaze vicious. Shen Yining, after making such a scene. Do you really think anyone else would dare to marry you? An aged but clear voice came from outside the door. A girl from my Su family doesn't have to worry about getting married. Behind my maternal grandmother, shopkeeper Zhou, and a few doctors from Huichun Clinic carried a chest inside. The chest was very old, and the copper wrapping on its corners had already turned green. Shopkeeper Zhou opened it in front of everyone, and it was full of account books. The pages were yellowed, but every single page was pressed perfectly flat and neat. He announced loudly, 6 years ago Madame Su entrusted me with keeping these old account books. Now, it is time to return them to eldest Miss Shen. Seeing those account books, Lu Jingheng's face turned even uglier than before. He subconsciously took a step back, his shoulder bumping into the pillar behind him. The Earl's madam asked, What account books? Shopkeeper Zhou patted the edge of the chest, shaking the dust on the lid up into the air. The Pei family's old medicine account, the Shu family's cloth account, the Shen residence's purchasing account, and a receipt for the silver the Earl's estate borrowed from the Shu family back then. Madame Su discovered back then that several families were secretly swapping good medicine for inferior ones, and just as she was about to report it to the officials, she fell ill. Father's voice trembled. Explain yourself clearly. Chuniang was helped to the front by the Shu family servants. She knelt on the ground, the sound of her knees hitting the grey bricks a muffled thud. Master, after the madam checked the accounts back then, Lady Shu was afraid the matter would be exposed. So she made this servant add medicine to the calming soup. This servant didn't dare, but Lady Shu threatened this servant's brother's life. Her voice was very soft, but every word was crystal clear. This servant's brother was only 8 years old that year. He couldn't even walk steadily. When Lady Shu was escorted over by the Shen family, she just happened to hear this sentence. Her hair was disheveled, a hairpin dangling at the ends, swaying back and forth. Before she could even stand steady, her mouth had already started cursing. You cheap maid making false accusations. You are just a servant girl who brews medicine. What do you know about medicine? Shopkeeper Zhou took out a signed receipt from the pharmacy. The paper was yellowed, but the handwriting was clear, and there was a vermilion handprint in the bottom right corner. Lady Shu used the Shu family shop's calling card when she bought that ingredient. It even has the Shu family shopkeeper's handprint on it. The year and date both match up. Father looked at Lady Shu. You harmed Lady Su, all for the account books. Madame Shu laughed shrilly. As she laughed, tears suddenly welled up, ruining the makeup on her face. What else? If she went to the authorities, the Shu family would be finished, and I would be finished too. Shen Haili, have you forgotten how much of the Shu family's silver you spent when you married me? Stop pretending to be innocent. Father staggered a step. He reached out to hold on to something, but his hand just grabbed at thin air. The Countess's face also turned pale. The Earl's estate borrowing silver has nothing to do with this. Does it really have nothing to do with it? Shopkeeper Zhou took out another old letter. The envelope was already brittle. He was exceptionally careful when opening it, as if peeling off a layer of skin. The deficit in the Earl's estate's medicinal herbs back then was covered by the Shu family. The silver to cover it came from Madame Shen's dowry shops. Madame Su was investigating, which is how she traced this lead. The Countess said shrilly, Nonsense. Maternal grandmother looked at her. Back then, when you were in danger at Lingyan Convent, my daughter saved you. You turned around and owed a debt of silver, and even tacitly approved of your son swapping brides with Shen Jiro. Maternal grandmother's cane struck the ground heavily. Countess, your face sure is valuable. An old madam among the guests stepped forward. Her hair was completely white, but her back was completely straight. These wedding vows cannot be taken. If the Earl's estate doesn't give an explanation, none of us here will dare to drink this wedding wine either. The Countess stubbornly held her ground. Jingheng was foolish. I will punish him. If eldest Miss Shen is willing, the wedding can still continue. I looked at her eyes. Her eye makeup was already smudged by sweat, leaving a small patch of bluish grey under her lower eyelids. Does the Countess think I laid out the evidence today just to go through with the marriage? Lu Jingheng gritted his teeth. You want to call off the engagement? I am not calling off the engagement. I took out the marriage contract and tore it in half in front of everyone. The sound of the paper tearing was very soft, but it landed in the wedding hall like a knife. The two halves of the marriage contract fluttered onto the wedding table, pinning down Shen Jiro's 2 letters. The marriage contract between Lu Jingheng and Shen Yining is void as of today. If the Count's manor isn't happy about it, you can sue me at the government office. Then I can just hand over all these account ledgers along with it. The Countess was so furious she couldn't speak. She gripped the doorframe, her knuckles turning white. Pei Chengjuan suddenly spoke up. Eldest Miss Shen, did you know all along that today would turn out like this? I looked at him. There was regret and frustration in his eyes, as well as the embarrassment of being played for a fool. The red silk flower on the chest of his wedding robe was crooked, but he didn't even bother to fix it. Have you been setting this trap since the free clinic? You've got it backward, young Master Pei. I didn't set the trap, I just didn't walk the path you all wanted me to, Pei Chengyuan said quietly. In our past life, if the wrong bridal sedan hadn't been boarded, would things have been different for us? Those words made Shen Jiro's head snap up. She was kneeling on the ground, but she craned her neck to look, her eyes wide with shock. I stared at Pei Chengjuan. You remember too. He didn't admit it. Only asking, during those 6 years, did you ever genuinely care for me even for a single day? Pei Chengjuan, the one who stayed up until dawn doing the accounts for you, was me. The one who knelt before doctors begging for remedies for you was me. And the one who shielded you from the clan's humiliation was also me. When you were on your deathbed and said I ruined your life, I looked into his eyes. Did you ever consider my true feelings? Pei Chengyuan's face turned ashen bit by bit. Shen Jiro screamed, You all remember. Why am I the only one having such a hard time? Kaiwei cursed. You are having a hard time. Are you having a hard time because you can't steal things? Old Madam Pei stared at Pei Chengyuan. You are hiding things from me too. Pei Chengyuan closed his eyes for a moment. Grandmother, the Pei family marriage. Let's call it off. Old Madam Pei raised her hand and gave him a slap. The slap landed on his face, the sound so crisp that the entire wedding hall heard it. 88 loads of betrothal gifts. You've completely thrown away the face of the Pei family. Shen Jiro crawled on her knees toward Lu Jingheng. Her knees scraped against the blue bricks, leaving bloody marks. Hair, I can't marry into the Pei family anymore. You marry me, you said so. You said as long as I did what you said, you wouldn't mistreat me. Lu Jingheng shook her off in disgust. You dragged me into this today, and you still want to enter the Earl's mansion. Shen Jiro slumped to the ground. She suddenly burst into loud laughter. The laughter echoed in the mostly empty wedding hall, hitting the walls and bouncing back. Shen Yining, you ruined me. And don't even think about walking away clean. You called off the engagement in public. Who'd still dare to take you? Your mum's dead, your dad doesn't want you. And the Su family fell apart a long time ago. What makes you think you can win? Grandmother was about to speak, but I raised my hand to stop her. I walked over to the box of account books and took out my mother's old letter. The paper was already brittle and yellowed at the edges, but the handwriting was still clear. The end of every character had a gentle curve. With what my mother left behind, with the 6 years I spent managing the Pei family's accounts in my past life, with knowing every dirty secret you have. Shopkeeper Joe cupped his hands to the crowd, his voice drowning out the wind outside the hall. Eldest Miss Shen isn't just spouting empty words. As for the Pei family's free clinic, if it weren't for her warning, the people in the west of the city would have suffered. She was also the one who spotted the issue in the old accounts and had the Su family look into it. If you all think she is wrong for breaking off the engagement, first ask yourselves if your own daughters should just put up with it if they ran into this kind of thing. The old madam from earlier said, "You shouldn't put up with it." Someone else said, "If it were my granddaughter, I'd back out too." In the Earl's mansion wedding hall, for the first time, someone stood behind me. Father looked at me, his lips trembling, whining, "Come home." Which home, he couldn't answer. His mouth opened and closed like a fish thrown ashore. Grandmother walked up beside me, back to the Su family. I held her hand. Her palm was dry and thin, but warm. "Okay." Before leaving, Lu Jingheng suddenly called out to stop me. "Shen Yining, do you think the Su family can protect you? You ruined my reputation today, and I won't let you get away with it." I turned back to look at him. "You'd better think first when the officers arrive whether the Count's mansion can protect you." The sound of gongs rang out outside the door. The people from Jingzhou Prefecture had arrived. Prefect Han came very quickly. He was wearing everyday casual clothes, his boots still stained with snow. Today was a great joyous occasion for the Count's mansion. He shouldn't have come in casual clothes unless someone had notified him in advance. The Countess's first reaction was to look at me. "You reported this to the authorities." The Count's mansion's wedding is a big deal. I was afraid the officers would be late, so I had the Su family submit the petition yesterday. Lu Jingheng was so furious he laughed. "You submitted the petition yesterday and still came in a bridal sedan chair today. If I didn't come, how could I possibly get so many witnesses here?" Prefect Han glanced at the hall full of guests and the evidence spread out on the wedding table, wiping the sweat from his forehead. "Who is Madame Shu?" Madame Shu was pushed forward, still crying, "Your Honor, I am innocent. Everything was made up by the Shu family. Shu Nyong kowtowed. Your Honor, I am willing to testify. Madame Shu instructed me to drug and harm Madame Su. This is the broken jade she gave me back then. I've had nightmares every single day these past few years, and I am willing to accept my punishment." Prefect Han looked at my father. "Lord Shen, the victim is your late wife. What do you have to say?" Father stood in a hall full of festive red. The red was so glaring it stung his eyes shut. His grey squirrel fur jacket looked completely out of place among the wedding clothes around him, like someone who walked into the wrong venue. He said in a low voice, "Investigate." Madame Shu suddenly lunged at him. She grabbed the front of his jacket, her knuckles turning white from the force. "Shen Hoeli, you can't do this to me. All these years I've managed everything for you, raised your daughter for you, and now you are going to send me to my death for a dead person." Father kept his eyes closed. "Take her away," Shenjiro cried out. "Father, save my mother." Father looked at her, his eyes finally showing weariness. It was a deep weariness, like kicking up a dozen years of accumulated dust all at once. "You go along for questioning too." "I am not going." Jiro hugged Lu Jingheng's legs. "Shizi, save me. I only did this for you." Lu Jingheng kicked her off. Pei Chengyuan suddenly let out a laugh from the side. "What are you laughing at?" He looked at Lu Jingheng. "I am laughing at myself for hating the wrong person in my past life, and being blind again in this one." Old Madame Pei said coldly, "So you actually know you are blind." Prefect Han's runners moved to take Nanny Feng away. Nanny Feng suddenly crawled on her knees to the Countess's feet. Her hands grabbed the hem of the Countess's skirt, her fingernails snagging the embroidered silk threads. "Madam, save me. The air made me do it. And Madam knows it too." Madam said the Shen family is weak and the Shu family is useless, so as long as the wedding ceremony is completed, they wouldn't dare make a fuss even if the person was swapped. The powder on the Countess's face couldn't hide her ashen hue. "You are talking nonsense." Nanny Feng pointed at her, her finger almost poking the Countess's knee. "Madam's room has the second Miss Shen's marriage certificate, as well as the reply to Lady Shu. If this old servant is talking nonsense, would Madam dare let the officers search it?" Prefect Han immediately said, "Search." The Countess almost collapsed. Lu Jingheng said anxiously, "Mother." The officers quickly found the letters in the Countess's room. Prefect Han opened them in public and read one of them out loud. "After the matter at the west side door is done on the 18th, Ra will enter the wedding hall and Yining will enter the Pei family. The Shen family will want to save face and will definitely not dare to make it public. There was no signature, but the handwriting was the Countess's. The old madams stepped further away one after another. As they moved their feet, their skirts dragged across the blue bricks, making a rustling sound like the wind blowing through dry leaves. The Countess couldn't hold on any longer. Her back leaned against the doorframe and the collar of her ceremonial dress skewed to one side. I did it for the Count's mansion. Shen Yining has a fierce temper and isn't fit to be the clan's principal wife. Raoer is gentle and she and Jinghang love each other. So what did I do wrong? Your mistake was thinking I deserved it. You ruined the Count's mansion. What good does that do you? I don't need to get any benefit out of your misfortune. I just want you to pay the price. Lu Jingheng was still struggling when he was pinned down by the bailiffs. His shoulders were pressed down by two bailiffs, one on the left and one on the right, and the shoulders of his wedding robe were gripped into two wrinkled clumps. I am the heir to the Earl's estate, how dare you? Prefect Han wiped the sweat from his temple. Lord Heir, pardon the offence. The evidence is too clear, this humble official wouldn't dare not act on it. Pei Chengyuan suddenly said to me, Shen Yining, are you handing over the Pei family's old accounts too? Old Madame Pei looked at him abruptly. I am. Pei Chengjuan's face turned pale. The Pei family isn't the mastermind. If lives are lost at the West City Free Clinic, it is no small matter either. You know better than me how many bad accounts are in the Pei family's old medicine ledgers. Old Madame Pei asked sternly, Chengyuan, is what she said true? Pei Chengyuan knelt down. He knelt on the blue brick floor of the Earl's mansion's wedding hall, only half a step away from where he just stood. Grandmother, I just wanted to find my footing in the clan a bit faster. Old Madame Pei swung her cane and hit him on the back. Finding your footing with human lives. The Pei family's century-old reputation is ruined in your hands. That blow was incredibly heavy. Pei Chengjuan let out a muffled groan, and you could even see his shoulder blade jolt through his wedding robe. When Shen Jiro was dragged away by the guards, she passed right in front of me. She stopped. The guards yanked her arm, and she forcefully struggled for a moment. Her voice was like sandpaper. Shen Yining, you won, but you've got nothing left either. I looked into her eyes. Her eye makeup was completely ruined, and black tears ran down her cheeks, pooling into a small puddle at her chin. I've lost my evil relatives, my rotten engagement, and those 6 bitter years from my past life. You call that losing? Fear finally showed in her eyes. That fear welled up from deep within her pupils, like ink dropping into clear water. Magistrate Han took the people away, Madame Xu, Shen Jiro, Lu Jingheng, Nanny Feng, and Chuniang. The Countess fell ill and was temporarily detained in the mansion guarded by officers. The wedding hall was mostly empty. The red candles were still burning. One had burned down to the bottom, its wax piling up on the copper base and hardening into a shapeless flower. The double happiness character was pasted on the wall, its corners already curling up from the wind. Father walked up to me. Yining, your father has let you and your mother down. You should say that in front of my mother's grave. Can you give your father a chance to make it up to you? Grandmother said coldly. Late compensation is so cold, even a dog wouldn't eat it. Father's face turned deathly pale. I took off my phoenix coronet and placed it on the Earl Mansion's wedding table. The coronet rested next to Shen Jiro's 2 letters, its beaded fringe hanging down, casting a small swaying shadow on the letter paper. Lord Shen, starting today, I am moving to the Sioux family. Return my mother's dowry shops, estates, and old ledgers within 3 days. If even one item is missing, I'll personally go to the Yamen and file another lawsuit. He said hoarsely, you won't even call me father anymore. I called you father for 6 years in my previous life, but it didn't wake you up. Let's just save it in this life. He couldn't say another word. I helped my grandmother walk outside. The snow outside had stopped. Daylight shone on the street, and the accumulated snow on the flagstones reflected a bright white light. Kaiwei chased after me holding my cloak. Miss, since you are not getting married anymore, where are we going? Home. She laughed so hard her tears flew everywhere. Back to the Sioux family. Qinghe followed at the very end, asking timidly, Miss, can this servant still follow you? I stopped to look at her. She immediately knelt down. Her knees hit the slush, splashing up a small patch of mud. This servant doesn't expect Miss to believe me. I only ask to work like a dog to repay you. The Su family doesn't keep people who betray their masters. Her face turned pale. But the Su family is short a cleaning maid. Start from the bottom, come if you are willing. Jinghe kowtowed. This servant is willing. Taiwei snorted. I've got my eyes on you. Jinghe wiped her tears. You can keep your eyes on me for a lifetime. That is fine. Grandmother got into the carriage and patted the seat beside her. The carriage curtain billowed in the wind like a sail. Ninger, sit here. I sat down. The carriage curtain was lowered, shutting out the utter mess in the courtyard of the Earl's mansion. In this life, I finally didn't get into the wrong bridal sedan. The Su family's old residence is on the east side of the city. The door frame was old, but the plum tree in the courtyard was blooming beautifully. The buds had just opened, and the edges of the pinkish-white petals still had dew on them. Grandma led me into the courtyard where my mother lived before getting married. When the courtyard door was pushed open, the hinges let out a long groan. This courtyard has always been kept for you. I ran my hand over the old desk by the window. A tiny Su was carved into the corner of the desk, worn a bit shallow over the years, but I could still feel the indentation when I touched it. Mother didn't have many belongings, a few medical books, a box of old hairpins, a stack of yellowed account papers. The corners of the medical books had creases where she had folded them, and an old hairpin still had a strand of hair tangled on it that hadn't been picked clean. Said, Miss, all these years the old lady was afraid of making the Shen family wary, so she didn't dare to openly take you in. She could only send some inconspicuous things during the holidays. Don't blame her. I held my grandmother's hand. I blame myself for not understanding in my past life. When grandmother heard the words past life, she didn't ask anything. She picked up her teacup and the hot steam swirled over her face for a moment. It is good that you understand. 3 days later, the Shen family delivered mother's dowry. Kaiwei was fuming as she flipped through the account, slapping the account book so hard it went smack smack. Miss, we're missing 2 shops, 30 mu of farmland and a box of southern pearls. The Shen family steward smiled apologetically. Eldest miss, it has been a long time. Some items were converted into silver and spent on expenses in the mansion. Who permitted this? The steward was left speechless. Qinghe held the ledger and whispered a reminder. These 2 shops are under the name of the Shu family's cousin master, and the 30 acres of land were transferred to the second miss as her dowry last year. Kaiwei immediately slammed the table, stealing the miss's birth mother's dowry to use as a dowry for that thief girl. The steward wiped his sweat. You can't put it like that. We're all family. I closed the ledger. Go back and tell Shen Hueli to make up for all of it before noon tomorrow. If he can't, I'll go to the Jingzhou governor's office. The steward hurriedly said, The master is your father after all. If he wants to be a father, he should first learn to pay back the money. The steward left dejectedly. He tripped over the threshold on his way out and almost took a tumble. In the afternoon, Pei Chengyuan came to the Su family. The gatekeeper wouldn't let him in, so he waited outside the door. Kaiwei ran to peek through the crack in the door and ran back to report. Miss, he has been standing there for an hour, and he is still holding a box of medicine in his hand. I won't see him, grandmother asked. Are you really not going to see him? I saw enough of him in my past life. Grandmother nodded, then let him stand. Pei Chengyuan stood there until dark. It gets dark early in winter. It was just past Yuxi, and faces could no longer be seen clearly on the street. He finally spoke up and asked the gatekeeper to pass a message. Eldest Miss Shen, I will personally hand over the Pei family's old accounts. I will also cover the compensation for the commoners in the west of the city. I wronged you in our past life, and I don't ask for your forgiveness in this life. I only ask that you don't trap yourself in hatred. I finished listening through the door and just had Kaiwei reply with one sentence. Saiwei went out with her hands on her hips, shouting through the crack in the door. My miss says you've got a lot of nerve. Hating you still takes effort, and the miss is busy. There was no sound outside the door for a long time. When Pei Chengyuan left, he placed the medicine box by the threshold. The medicine box was made of mahogany, carved with the emblem of the Pei family pharmacy. Kaiwei thought it was bad luck and wanted to throw it away. Shopkeeper Joe happened to come over to deliver the accounts. He bent down, picked it up, and opened it to take a look. Top-quality wound medicine, worth quite a bit of silver. The quality of this ointment means it has been kept for at least 3 years. Sell it and send the silver to the west of the city. Shopkeeper Joe smiled so much his beard curled up. You handle things very decisively, miss. After the old accounts were submitted to the government office, the capital was buzzing with excitement for half a month straight. Madame Shu's case of buying medicine to harm people had conclusive evidence, and she was sentenced to exile. On the day she hit the road, the escorting guard said she cursed the whole way, not stopping even when her voice went hoarse. At the very end, she was just mouthing the curses. When she died halfway on the journey, her lips were still open. Although Chunyang was an accomplice, because she voluntarily testified and had been coerced, she was flogged and then sent to a nunnery for hard labor. Shenjiro took part in the bride swap, met secretly with men, and plotted to ruin her legitimate sister's reputation, so she got kicked out of the Shen family. Refusing to accept it, she made a huge scene in court, claiming that Lu Jingheng had promised to marry her. Lu Jingheng flat out denied it. He didn't even spare her a single glance in court. To save her own life, Nanny Feng completely sold out the mother and son from the count's estate. The heir of the count's estate was stripped of his position, fined silver, and grounded for a year. The count's wife fell ill, and the estate's reputation took a massive nosedive. The Pei family was fined a massive amount of silver over the spoiled medicine at the free clinic and their old accounts. Old Madame Pei personally went to the west side of the city to apologize, and also stripped Pei Chengyuan of his management rights. Pei Chengyuan knelt at the entrance of the West City Free Clinic for a whole day, his knees swelled up from kneeling, but no one even helped him up. When this news reached the Siu family, I was reading the medical books my mother left behind. The plum blossoms outside the window had bloomed, and the wind carried in a faint, bitter fragrance. Sai Wei slapped the table as she listened. So satisfying, miss. Where did Shenjiro go now? Manager Joe said. The Shen family doesn't want her. The Pei family broke the engagement, and the Count's estate won't acknowledge her. I heard the Shu family is also afraid of getting dragged into it. They've locked their doors. Xinghe paused her hand while serving the tea. Will she come make a scene at the Shu family? I turned a page. The paper made a soft rustle against my fingertips. She will come. Kai Wei immediately went to grab a broom. If she comes, we'll beat her right back out. Just as it was getting dark, sure enough, crying and shouting came from outside the door. Shenjiro knelt at the Su family's door, her clothes thin, without even a single silver hairpin on her head. Her hair was just tied with a cloth strip, and the backs of her hands had cracked frostbite, sister. I was wrong, please save me. Her voice came in from outside the door, blown intermittently by the wind. Father doesn't want me. Mother was exiled, and the Shu family kicked me out too. Sister, we are sisters after all, you can't just watch me die. I stood inside the door. Through the door, I could imagine her expression. First crying, then blaming, then threatening, and finally back to crying. She was exactly like this in our previous life, changing masks layer by layer, using whichever layer was useful. I can. She froze. Her crying stopped for a second, like she was being choked by the throat. You watched me die very calmly in our previous life. The color drained from her face all at once. You really do remember too, yes. She crawled over to grab the threshold. Her fingers dug into the old wood grain of the Su family's threshold, the seams of her fingernails full of mud. Then you should understand even better. I just want to change my fate. I don't want to marry into the Pei family. I want to be the young madam of the Earl's mansion. What did I do wrong? I crouched down to look at her. The door was half open, and the cold wind poured in through the gap, blowing my collar up. You are not wrong for wanting to change your fate. Your mistake was using other people's lives as stepping stones. Shenjiro shook her head, crying, her tears dripping onto the threshold and seeping into a small water stain. I didn't mean to let you die in your past life. When you married Pei Chengjuan, didn't you have your moments of glory too? Didn't you keep the Pei family pharmacy afloat? You had it so good, so you stole it with a clear conscience. She suddenly stopped crying. Sister, as long as you take me in, I can tell you a secret. Speak. She stared at me as if grasping at her last straw. She gulped her Adam's apple, bobbing up and down. Before my mother was exiled, she had someone pass me a message. She said there is still an old letter from your mother in the Count's manor hidden in a secret compartment in Lu Jingheng's study. That letter can prove that back then, your mother was already preparing to report both the Shu family and the Count's manor to the authorities. Kai Wei scolded, "You are only saying this now." Shen Jiro's lips trembled. "If I had said it earlier, who would have saved me? You weren't asking for help." I looked down into her eyes. Her pupils reflected the light from the lantern under the eaves, tiny and swaying. "You were trading dead people for food." She hurriedly reached out, trying to grab the hem of my skirt. Before her fingers even touched it, Kai Wei's broom swept across. "Sister, I know where the secret compartment is. Take me with you. I'll help you get the letter. Once you get the letter, give me a way out. Letting me into the Sioux family is fine. Sending me out of town is fine too. I won't fight anymore. I swear. A way out." I got up. "He, go get shopkeeper Joe. Kai Wei, get the carriage ready." Shen Jiro's eyes lit up. I looked down at her. "You are going too. If you dare play any tricks, the prison doors of Jingzhou Prefecture are still open." The Earl's mansion was now largely deserted. The former gatekeepers didn't even dare to ask a thing when they saw the Su family's carriage. The gold paint on the door was already peeling, revealing the dusty grey wood underneath. Lu Jingheng was grounded in his courtyard. Hearing that I had come, he shouted through the window, "Shen Yining, what more do you want?" His voice came through the window paper muffled, as if pressed down by something. His silhouette was cast on the window paper. His hair wasn't tied up in a crown, but draped loosely over his shoulders, looking like a completely different person from the plum blossom banquet last time. I stood in the courtyard, stepping on the crushed snow covering the ground, to fetch my mother's things. Shen Jiro pointed to the third tier of the curio cabinet in the study, her voice tight. "Behind that celadon vase on the right, there is a mechanism." Shopkeeper Joe stepped forward to feel around. His hand probed behind the celadon vase and touched a sunken mechanism. With a light press, a hidden compartment popped open. Inside, there was indeed an old yellowed letter and a thin booklet. A fine layer of dust had settled on the letter. Blowing the dust away revealed my mother's handwriting. She wrote to my father saying that the old accounts of the Shu family, the Earl's mansion, and the Pei family had widespread implications. If anything unexpected happened to her, she asked my father to protect Yining and keep the Sioux family's name clean. The ink at the end of the letter was smudged, as if someone had shed tears over it. By the time my father rushed over, I was just handing the letter to Prefect Han. After finishing reading it, he only had one sentence left to say, "I didn't know." Grandmother walked in leaning on her cane. The tip of the cane struck the blue brick floor of the Count's Manor's study, each tap sounding like a nail being hammered in. "You didn't know, so she died. You didn't know, so Ninga suffered. Shen Haili, what you are best at in this life is not knowing." Father knelt in the melted snow, not daring to look up. The slush soaked through his knees, forming 2 dark water stains at the kneecaps. The thin booklet recorded every sum of silver privately exchanged between the Count's Manor and the Shu family. Governor Han sealed the study of the Count's Manor on the spot, and the Countess fainted upon hearing the news. Lu Jingheng was still cursing as he was escorted out the door, cursing until he finally saw the street full of commoners and could only bury his head. Shen Jiro huddled by the carriage and asked in a low voice, "Sister, what about my way to survive? You have one." She looked up. "Go to the nunnery and do hard labor with Cunyang. You still have hands and feet. You won't starve to death." She screamed, "You lied to me. I only said I'd give you a way to survive. I didn't say I'd give you wealth and status." Kai Wei slammed the carriage door shut, the door panel almost smacking Shen Jiro in the face. "Yell again, and you won't even get that way to survive." Later, Lady Shu died on the road to exile. According to the escort guards, the last person she cursed before dying was not me, but Shen Huili, cursing him for being unfaithful, cursing him for being heartless, cursing him for standing by and watching her die. Shen Jiro rubbed all 10 of her fingers raw at the nunnery, and no one called her second miss anymore. She would occasionally tell the new nuns about the past, saying she almost became the young madam of the Earl's mansion. Just almost. No one believed her. Lu Jingheng lost his title as the heir, and the Earl's mansion sold off half a street's worth of shops to pay the fine. The once bustling Jing'an Earl's mansion was now so deserted that only a few sparrows were left hopping on the front steps. Pei Chengduan was sent by old Madame Pei to do hard labor at the charity clinic in the west of the city, brewing medicine for the poor every day to make amends. Someone saw him washing medicine pots by the well in winter, his fingers frozen red, a far cry from the gentle young master he was in front of the charity clinic tent back then. Shen Huili resigned from his post to guard the empty house. The lamp in front of Madame Su's memorial tablet finally had no one daring to let it go out. He would occasionally come and stand at the Su family's door, never knocking, just standing. Kaiwei said that one time she saw his hair had grown another layer of white at the temples. Mother's dowry returned to the Su family. I used half of it to open a women's medical hall, exclusively taking in women with nowhere else to go. The first batch of students was only 3 widows, 2 girls whose engagements were broken off, and a mute girl. Qinghe started from sweeping and cleaning, and 3 years later became the lady in charge of accounts. She could use the abacus more nimbly than anyone else, and her handwriting in the account books grew neater and neater. Kaiwei told the story to everyone she met. She stood at the entrance of the medical hall, gesturing to a group of new female disciples, her voice so loud that half the street could hear her. Back then, Our Lady's bridal sedan chair, Qinghe poked her head out from the accounting room. Kaiwei, you are bragging again. Who is bragging? I am telling the truth. Back in the day, with a single bridal sedan chair, Our Lady brought down 4 black-hearted households. The Earl's mansion, the Pei family, the Shu family, the Shen family. Which of them didn't bring it upon themselves? The new female disciples widened their eyes, half believing and half doubting. Kaiwei wanted to say more, but was dragged away by Qinghe pulling her sleeve. Qinghe muttered as she pulled her along. Keep it down, the lady is writing a contract right now. Don't disturb her. Another year when the plum blossoms bloomed. I wrote down the first medical clinic deed at my mother's old desk. The ink had just dried, and the shadow of plum blossoms was cast in from outside the window, falling onto the paper. Grandmother stood at the door, holding a cup of hot tea in her hands. Dinger, do you still hate? I put down my brush. Outside the window, the newly formed buds on the plum branches were bent low by the snow. As the wind passed, they shook off white all over the ground. I am all out of hate. I looked at that contract, the ink slowly drying on the paper, the edges faintly glowing with a layer of light. I am keeping the rest of my days just for myself. Suddenly, a burst of noise came from outside the courtyard gate. Kaiwei's loud voice carried past the screen wall, down the corridor, shouting all the way into the courtyard. Miss Shopkeeper, Joe sent over a cart of medicinal herbs, saying the folks in the west of the city chipped in for it. If you don't accept it, they'll kneel at the door, 15 or 16 people all kneeling down right there. Qinghe trotted in, still as timid as back in the day. She ran too fast and tripped over the threshold. Miss, a girl surnamed Su came to ask to study here. She said she heard you take in female disciples. But she is blind. She was led here by someone. I didn't know if we could take her in. I stood up. The hem of my skirt brushed the corner of the desk, kicking up the thin layer of dust that had settled on my mother's medical book. The dust drifted for a moment in the afternoon light and landed on the shadow of the plum blossoms. Let her in, but she can't see. The women's medical hall accepts hearts, not eyes. The most worthwhile thing to pull out and look at in this story isn't how Shen Zhuyu overturned the case. It is that letter left by the mother. The ink at the end of the letter was smudged, like someone had shed tears. This teardrop is the anchor of the whole story. In the previous life, these tears were shed for nothing, because nobody investigated, nobody asked, and nobody dug out that half of the account book from the old Su family mansion. In this life, Shen Yining, in her 17-year-old body, held her mother's letter and did something she never got the chance to do in her last life, turning tears into evidence. Did you guys notice a detail? What Shenjiro yelled at the Earl's mansion wedding hall was, "What gives you the right to start over, not what gives you the right to beat me?" She knew Shen Yining was holding the letter she wrote to Lu Jingheng, the bronze tally from Nanifeng, and the broken jade and account books left by their mother. But what she couldn't accept the most wasn't this evidence. It was the fact that Shen Yining got to start over itself. She cried in court, saying, "I just wanted to change my fate. What did I do wrong?" This sentence translates to, "I just wanted to steal your life. Why did you have to wake up?" Shen Yining's answer was, "There is nothing wrong with wanting to change your fate. The mistake is using someone else's life as a stepping stone." There is a whole moral universe between these two sentences. Finally, let's talk about Pei Chengyuan. He asked Shen Yining at the Earl's Mansion wedding hall, if we hadn't gotten into the wrong bridal sedan in our past life, would we be different? This is the kind of assumption that needs to be debunked the most in all rebirth novels. Because in the past life he chose to stand by and do nothing, chose to stay silent, chose to turn his back to Shen Yining when she stayed up till dawn doing the accounts for him. He thought getting into the wrong sedan was an accident, but actually, that path was the destination he'd only reach after taking every single step right. Shen Yining didn't answer him, because the answer was in Kaiwei's mouth. Hating you takes too much effort. This is probably why I like writing these kinds of stories. A woman's most beautiful turnaround isn't when someone comes to rescue her. It is when she suddenly realizes she doesn't need to wait for anyone to save her. Her mother's letter is in her hands. The prescription is in her hands. The ledgers are in her hands. The bronze token is in her hands. She just needs a wedding to place all the chess pieces on the board at once. See you in the next part.